season long, Baltimore and the Bombers have been on a collision course for first place, and today at Memorial Stadium, they collide. Baltimore fans are looking forward to this one as much as anybody. They're expecting a season-high turnout of 45,000 on a made-to-order day. Welcome now to Baltimore. I'm Scott Oak. Well, this has been one of the most anticipated games of the Canadian Football League schedule. It's been shaping up that way for almost 3 months. By this time last year, the Bombers had long since wrapped up first place, in keeping with the way they've dominated the East Division over the years, but now enter an expansion team that apparently is not willing to give Winnipeg first place by acclamation. Baltimore's matched Winnipeg win for win most of the way, and now into the second to last week of the season, the Bombers are 2 points up, but this is a first place showdown because if the Bombers win or tie today, first is theirs for the 4th time in 5 years. Bombers beat Baltimore by 7 in July, so if Baltimore wins by 8 today to ensure the edge in points 4 and then wins its final game next week, first place will go to the first-year team. The stakes are as high as they get in the regular season. The Bombers wouldn't want to be in such a game without their #1 quarterback, and they've got him after his knee injury. Matt Dunnigan's back on form, proved it by leading a stirring comeback over Hamilton last week. And Baltimore has weapons, the most potent of them, Mike Pringle, who's 204 yards away from the CFL's single-season rushing record. So what is there not to like about this game? And now here are Don Whitman and James Curry.
Thank you, Scott. Hi, everybody. Well, the Bombers, James, realize what their task is this afternoon, trying to find some means of stopping Mike Pringle.
Well, Mike Pringle, the league's leading rusher, has been a formidable task for everyone all year long. And the Bombers this year has only given up over 100 yards on the ground to 2 backs all season.
So Greg Clark will likely play a prominent role defensively for Winnipeg today.
Greg Clark last week had 11 tackles in that big comeback win over Hamilton, and they need a big contest from him once again this afternoon.
Offensively, Winnipeg feels they can throw deep against Baltimore. Alfred Jackson returns to the lineup. Jackson and Tim Daniel outside. Both have tremendous speed.
Well, a lot of speed on the outside, and Carl Anthony is the guy that they'd like to pick on this afternoon. They feel that they can go at him several times this afternoon and come up with some success.
It's been 3 months and a day since these two teams last met at Winnipeg Stadium, with the Bombers coming from behind for a 7-point win. Scott?
Okay, Don, it's a gorgeous day. There's another large crowd at Memorial Stadium, and first place is on the line. It's perfect as we head to kickoff between Baltimore and Winnipeg, live from Baltimore, Maryland. Saskatchewan and Ottawa kicked off at Frank Clair Stadium about 1 hour ago. Let's go to some highlights. In the first quarter, Tom Burgess went 29 yards to Elbert Turner to make it 7-0 Saskatchewan. Burgess has put it all together in the past couple of weeks. In the second quarter, Ray Elgard with a 21-yard gain that would set up Saskatchewan's second major score. And Burgess took it in himself 2 plays after this. As we speak, it is 14-1 Saskatchewan. Whatever happens in Baltimore this afternoon is not going to be in the class of upsets we saw at Skydome last night, where Shreveport beat the Argos on Bjorn Nittmo's last-second 55-yard field goal. Let's check the standings. Ottawa and Hamilton tripping over each other for the final playoff berth in the East Division. A win would give the Riders a 2-point lead on Hamilton. And the Cats play in Calgary tomorrow, and we know what's at stake here in Baltimore this afternoon. In the West, one postseason spot remains to be decided. Saskatchewan can wrap up that berth if the Western Riders win today and Sacramento loses in Edmonton. The Gold Miners and Eskimos begin in 1 hour, and we'll update you on that game. Well, I can't imagine it's a better day for football anywhere than it is here in Baltimore. Summer-like temperatures, no significant wind, and brilliant sunshine. Hey, who needs a dome? And we're all set for the kickoff. Don?
Absolutely perfect conditions for this first-place battle between Winnipeg and Baltimore. Mike Roach, one of the Winnipeg assistant coaches, the man with the responsibility of controlling the defensive unit under the direction of head man Cal Murphy. And Cal Murphy this year has an opportunity to do something nobody else has in the CFL, become a 10-time Grey Cup champion. He has 9 CFL rings from Montreal, from Edmonton, and in Winnipeg as both a coach and a general manager. Over on the other side of the field, Don Matthews is the 6th winningest coach in CFL history. He's in the middle of the huddle of the Baltimore CFLers, and both Matthews and Murphy were assistant coaches with the Edmonton Eskimos during their dominance of the CFL in their record-breaking 5 consecutive Grey Cup streak.
Well, Don, you really have to like what Matthews has done here in Baltimore. He has taken a brand new franchise into the playoffs. They're challenging for first place. and he's hoping to accomplish something that no one has ever done before, go to a championship game.
This is something that no other first-year team, as you said, has done in the CFL. In very few sports has a first-year team ever had the success that the Baltimore CFLers have had, with an 11-5 record coming into this first-place showdown with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And as Don Matthews said, this game is extremely important for us because ever since Winnipeg moved to the East in 1987, the path to the Grey Cup has led through Winnipeg.
Well, they have the team to go through Winnipeg with. You know, everyone gave a lot of praise to their defense because of a lot of CFL veterans that were on it, but they also forgot about the offense. When you look at the keys of their offense of Pringle, Ham, and Armstrong, those guys have had all-star seasons on the offensive side of the ball for Baltimore this season.
Troy Westwood preparing to kick off for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, a team that arrived in Baltimore late last night. As a matter of fact, they didn't get bedded down in their hotels until after midnight, and they'll be chartering home immediately after the game. Mike Pringle is the man bringing it back on the kickoff return for Baltimore, and he gets it up to about the 38-yard line, a 19-yard run back. Not only does Pringle have an opportunity to shatter the single-season rushing record of Willie Burton, but he has an outside shot at breaking Mike Pinball Clemens' all-purpose yardage.
Well, he's been Mr. All-Everything for the Baltimore offense this year. He's a fine compliment to Tracy Ham in the backfield, but he makes a defense play honest. You cannot just key to pass because he's been so effective this year in the backfield.
The move from Toronto to Baltimore has certainly rejuvenated the career of Tracy Ham. Ham sends 3 receivers wide to the left. Ham is under some pressure, and this is when he is dangerous. He has the ability to run with the ball, and Bobby Evans came up to make the tackle at the 45-yard line.
Well, that's vintage Tracy Ham, and that's what he does so effectively. He knows how to elude the rush, avoid the loss, and as you saw that time, gave himself the run-pass option, finally pulled it down and picked up some positive yardage on first down.
Tony Hill, a new addition to the Bombers at defensive end, is the man who applied the initial pressure to Tracy Ham. He flushed him out of the pocket, and Ham got up to the 45-yard line.
Well, being 6'7" is not a big advantage for Hill when you're facing Ham, and he knows how to duck underneath the rush.
Out of the shotgun, the fake inside. Ham rolls to his left, throws, and he's intercepted. Donald Smith has picked it off, and Donald Smith has a convoy. He'll head to the end zone. Penalty flag in the play. This could be an illegal block on Winnipeg on a 60-yard interception return by Donald Smith, but there was a penalty flag, and I think they're going to call an illegal block against Winnipeg.
Don, nevertheless, that was a great read by Donald Smith, and Tracy Ham with the play fake to fake the ball to Pringle.
Number 30, Winnipeg, after the interception. First down, Winnipeg.
You got the fake by Tracy Ham to Pringle, hoping to get some misdirection going with that fast pursuing Bomber defense. Donald Smith read the play perfectly, came underneath and made the pick.
And Darrell Sampson is charged with the illegal block downfield as Donald Smith was heading to the end zone.
Well, you get a good shot as he comes underneath Clark. The play prior to that, Clark looked like he might have had some hamstring problems, but Smith picked up the convoy going down the sideline. We saw Sampson come in and get the illegal block, but a big break early for the Bombers, and their offense has the ball at the 36-yard line.
Winnipeg first and 10 from the 36 of Baltimore. Matt Dunnigan at the controls. And Dunnigan is under pressure. He loses the football, and it's picked up. Big Miles Gurrell lumbers his way back to the 45-yard line.
A very risky play that time by Miles Gurrell, but also a very heady play. We're seeing a lot of intensity on the defensive side of the ball from the start of this game. Great hitting. You saw the pressure coming from the outside of Payton and Brigance. They met Dunnigan. Brigance knocked the ball loose. Gurrell had the presence to pick it up and pick up 7 yards to save some yardage on second down.
Back at the 45-yard line, Dunnigan rolls. Dunnigan looks deep. Intended for Gerald Wilcox, incomplete. Michael Brooks, the safety, was over defending against him.
Don, this is Matt Dunnigan's game. He loves to go deep, and it's evident on the first 2 plays that he dropped deep, looking to go deep against this Baltimore secondary. But look at the pressure coming from the outside of Payton that time, getting to him. Former teammates last year in Winnipeg, but right now this is for all the marbles and friendships go out the window.
Alfred Payton, a 3-year member of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, 22 quarterback sacks last year. He started this season with Shreveport and then joined Baltimore partway through the year.
the situation, Don, with Shreveport. He was played out of position, though, and he just didn't fit into that defensive scheme, and they're very happy in Baltimore to have him.
52-yard field goal attempt by Troy Westwood, and it's wide. Lester Smith takes it at the goal line. A couple of good moves by Smith to get to the outside. And then he's forced out of bounds by Bob Cameron. Smith made an excellent fake on the return. So the initial turnover, the interception by Donald Smith, goes for naught. A penalty nullified a potential interception return for a touchdown, and Westwood misses on the field goal attempt, and Lester Smith brings it back 48 yards.
Don, it's evident right off the back today the defense and specialty teams are going to play a big part of this afternoon's contest as we see Lester Smith pick up that convoy coming up the left side and gives Baltimore great field position out at the 46-yard line.
1st and 10. Armstrong in motion across the formation. He's their leading receiver, and here's the leading ball carrier, Mike Pringle, and Pringle takes it into the secondary to the Winnipeg 45, brought down by the safety Arrow Brown. 19 yards for Mike Pringle. Pringle needs 205 yards to break Willie Burden's single-season record.
Don, one of the things we talked about early in the game, that Baltimore would attack heel. He wasn't accustomed to seeing the particular types of CFL formations, and with all of the motion in his first CFL start, they went after him on 1st down and picked up a 1st down.
1st and 10. The ball is at the 45 of Winnipeg. Ham with time. He looks deep for Walter Wilson. He overthrows it. Wilson was in the camp of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Couldn't make the grade with Winnipeg, but has caught on with Baltimore and has been a key part of their passing game. A big offensive line. And at left tackle, Burdonish has received his team's nomination as the outstanding offensive lineman.
Well, they've done a fine job. When you can anytime block for the league's leading rusher, first year or 10th year team in the league, you have to take your hats off to him.
Passes over the middle, and it's complete for a 1st down to Wilson. He made the catch at the 26, an 18-yard pickup.
You know, this is a fine complementary receiving core that Baltimore has. They're balanced throughout. Armstrong comes in with the great numbers, but Tracy Ham feels very comfortable regardless of who he's throwing it to. And you see the drag route over the middle that time, and Donald Smith had a long ways to run to keep up with Wilson. 1st down the results for Baltimore.
Armstrong has 1,446 yards. Wilson is 150 yards shy of breaking the 1,000-yard mark. Penalty flag over on the far side of the field. Bud Steen is the referee this afternoon.
Illegal procedure. 68 Baltimore. 1st down repeated.
Don, no sooner than you mention the young man's name, he gets a penalty.
Had an interesting talk with Shara Burdonish yesterday. He goes back to Reno in the offseason where he continues to work out. He said he is really enjoying his first year in the Canadian Football League. He said it is really a lot of fun. Those big old linemen were having a lot of fun at practice yesterday.
Well, they were. You know, they had hat day for them, and they all want to run around in those tight, those skimpy outfits that they bring on that particular day and call themselves Big Sexy.
Pringle, the ball carrier, and Pringle fights his way for about 4 yards, brought down by Tony Hill. Stan Mikowicz has been a member of the Winnipeg defense for 13 seasons. He's joined by a newcomer to his left, Tony Hill, who comes to the club with a Super Bowl ring, courtesy of the Dallas Cowboys last year. And Cal Murphy is expecting some big things today from Tony Hill. On 2nd down, over the middle for Armstrong. 1st down as he's inside the 15.
Armstrong, Don, you know, when you think about it, at the start of the season, he was let go by Las Vegas Posse, and he came in and got a tryout with Baltimore. But you see him on a simple inside release. You cannot put the linebacker Darrell Lyles in one-on-one coverage against Chris Armstrong. That's a mismatch. When you have Tracy Ham at quarterback that can recognize and read a defense like he does, he's going to kill you every play.
Armstrong had to call Don Matthews and beg for a tryout. Pass over the middle, incomplete. It was intended for Armstrong in the end zone, knocked away by Darrell Sampson.
That ball was just a little underthrown, but a great break on the ball by Sampson, Don. You get a look at it right here. Good protection from the offensive line. Ham puts that one on a rope, but you can see Armstrong trying to come back. Sampson getting that left arm in there Nice defensive play by Darrell Sampson.
2nd and 10 as Tracy Ham is going to operate from the shotgun from the 15-yard line. Actually just inside the 15. 3 receivers wide right. Pass over the middle for Armstrong. It was deflected, and he takes it in for a touchdown. Armstrong was released by Las Vegas. He called Don Matthews, asked for a tryout. Matthews said, if you can still run, we'll bring you in and take a look at you. Well, they brought him in, and they have really liked what they have seen all season long.
Well, once again, Don, they try to put a linebacker on a slot back. Just a mismatch. And Tracy Ham, you have to give him credit for recognizing the weakness in the Winnipeg defense. Took advantage of it. Baltimore on the board early with the touchdown.
15-yard touchdown toss from Tracy Ham to Chris Armstrong, his 16th of the season. And Donald Ikwabike adds the point after as Baltimore leads it by a score of 7-0.
Don, in the first contest this year, Baltimore got up on Winnipeg, but it was very important for Baltimore to get that initial touchdown here at home, to have the crowd in the game behind them all the way.
Well, the CFLers have certainly bounced back after the early pass interception, and Tracy Ham puts it into the end zone in the hands of Chris Armstrong.
What was special about that reception is that the ball was deflected at the line of scrimmage. As we see right here, Stan Mikowitz gets his hand up, but the concentration of Chris Armstrong to keep his eye on the flight of the football, bring it in, and just waltz in the end zone untouched for the touchdown.
Chris Armstrong, with previous CFL experience, has 7 games this year with more than 100 yards as a pass receiver. He played in Edmonton, tried to make the Las Vegas Posse lineup, went into camp early, and that was the problem, was then released by the Posse and wound up getting a tryout with Baltimore.
Well, you know, he scored the first touchdown this afternoon. He's had 4 games this year that he's had multiple touchdown games, but the most amazing stat is over 22 yards per reception.
Tim Daniel, who had a punt return touchdown last week against Hamilton, brings it back to the 32-yard line. He's surrounded there by a group led by Charles Anthony after a 16-yard return.
Met by the crusher.
Leading the Blue Bombers by a score of 7-0 with 8:53 remaining in the opening quarter.
You know, Don, when you're facing this big play attack of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, you can't sit comfortably on a 7-point lead. We saw last week when they were down by 30 points to Hamilton that there was no quit in this team, and they were able to come back and win it on the last-second field goal. And Gerald Alfin has been one of those keys to success in the past couple of weeks.
Alfin with 17 touchdowns this year, a tremendous touchdown to pass completion ratio. He was the man Dunnigan was looking at. He has scored a touchdown for every 3.8 passes he has caught.
So you're saying that he catches 2.8, and on the third one he gets a touchdown?
Absolutely.
Okay.
You figured that out quickly.
This is a very fun offense to watch when you look at the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. They like to go deep often, and they have a big receiving core. Everyone in the receiving core is over 6 feet tall, so it lends a formidable task to any defensive secondary that they face.
An extra defensive back, Lester Smith in on 2nd and long. The pass down the sidelines intended for Bryant, incomplete. And Matt Goodwin was defending against him, and there is a holding call against Winnipeg.
Well, Baltimore came with the blitz. They know that they cannot allow Matt Dunnigan to just sit comfortably in the pocket, and that time they came with the delayed safety blitz.
Holding. 53 on Winnipeg. The penalty is declined. It's the down.
He was trying to run Bryant up the sideline against Matt Goodwin, but who was a former defensive back playing linebacker, so that is not a mismatch when you get those two players one-on-one, and Baltimore came up with the defensive stand once again.
Lester Smith, the lone man back, awaiting this Bob Cameron punt. Don Matthews was saying yesterday that he felt special teams would play a key role in this game. Cameron's punt is going to bounce out of bounds. No opportunity for Smith to return it. 7-0. Baltimore leads with that 31-yard punt by Cameron. The newcomer at defensive end for Winnipeg, 6'7", 265-pound Tony Hill.
And they really like him, Don, as a prospect. But when you play your first CFL game, it can be quite a challenge when you face the multiple formations of a CFL offense. And when you look at the talent that Baltimore has, Hill will have his hands full this afternoon.
Cal Murphy was saying he has the ability to rush the passer. Pass is complete. Washington takes it inside the Winnipeg 40.
Nice play mix-up by Tracy Ham, the slip screen to Joe Washington. What you get is a clean release. Watch Hill up front as he goes right there. And early the offensive tackle guard releases out, gets a kick-out block on the corner, and Washington just takes it up for another first down.
Tui Peloto was also out there to throw a key block, enabling Washington to go for 26 yards. 1st and 10 from the Winnipeg 37. Hand off to Pringle. He has an escort as he comes around the corner, but he steps out of bounds. He was forced out on the sidelines by Lawrence Hatch.
Don, what Baltimore is doing right now, they're attacking Tony Hill, the newcomer in the Winnipeg defense. On this last play, they run a counter tray. They get Hill pinned inside. They get around the corner. There was no support. Pringle was able to pick up 7 yards on first down.
One of the problems he would have, I suspect, is all the motion that he is not accustomed to seeing.
The motion and his height. Tall players have a common problem. They like to look at the game because they have a great vantage point. He's looking in the backfield and being caught doing it.
2nd and 4. Pringle again. He's got a first down. And it is Tony Hill who is able to drag him down from behind.
Mike Pringle is showing fine running form this afternoon. The offensive line is really getting off of the ball. Look at the surge up front. Hill folds underneath and makes the tackle, but only after the first down. You're going to have to stop Pringle before he gets that head of steam. You get a good shot of him right here. He's looking in the backfield. He's able to read off of Neil Fort and come down and make the tackle.
1st and 10. The ball is at the 23. Ham looks towards the end zone. Now he's chased out of the pocket. Randolph is after him but can't catch him as Ham runs out of bounds very close to a first down. Ham wasn't about to take any chances of losing the football as he headed to the sidelines either. He threw it out of bounds.
I think if there was any question about Tracy Ham's ability to still run with the football, he answered it on this. You see the mobility of Tracy Ham. He's not looking to run with the ball. He's trying to find a receiver downfield, but once that doesn't show, he's able to turn the corner and pick up 9 yards on first down. Randolph right there was in pursuit of Ham, and Randolph is a linebacker with great wheels, but Tracy Ham exhibited that he has even better wheels as he was able to get around the corner and outrun Randolph.
The ball is at the 15 of Winnipeg. It will be 2nd and 1. Tracy Ham, when the teams met in Winnipeg on the 28th of July, carried 5 times for 65 yards.
Don, this is a waste down for Tracy Ham. This is one where he likes to go in the end zone on 2nd and short.
He has 3 receivers wide to the right. That's the route he chooses to go, but instead he gives it to Pringle, and Pringle has a first down.
Mike Pringle on the carry is stopped by Paul Randolph.
Randolph was in on the tackle and lost his helmet in the process.
Well, Mike Pringle churning those legs as he takes that straight dive on that inside trap play and picks up another first down, 1st and goal at the 8. As you see him right here, he reads his blocking, he cuts back against the flow. Randolph loses his helmet as he makes the tackle, and Baltimore is in a hurry-up offense.
1st and goal for Baltimore from the Winnipeg 9-yard line as Tracy Ham operates from the shotgun, and he's cut down for a loss by Rob Davidson back at the 11-yard line. Davidson had excellent penetration and was through on Ham before he could get rolling to his right.
Well, they rotate those nose tackles, Davidson and Mikolas, and that time Davidson shot the gap. Ham was trying to run a quarterback draw, made the tackle in the backfield for a loss of 2 on the play.
2nd and goal. The ball now at the 11 as Ham shifts back into the shotgun formation. 3 receivers wide to his right. However, he looks to his left, throws into the end zone for Wilson, incomplete. And Wilson had to perform some jumping ability as he ran into one of the former baseball dugouts here at Memorial Stadium.
Well, Tracy Ham knows that's one that got away. He had to match up with Walter Wilson on Donald Smith. He got a step behind Smith. Ham had too much on the football, went over his head, and now they have to settle for a field goal attempt from Igwe-Bike.
Igwe-Bike was dropped from the roster for a couple of games. They were not happy with his field goal kicking. But after a 2-game absence, he has returned, and he has kicked well for Baltimore. This will be an 18-yard field goal attempt, but a penalty has been called.
Illegal procedure. 38 Baltimore. Third down repeated.
Good Steen getting a lot of airtime today.
A couple of procedure calls so far against Baltimore. Charlie Bauman is the man who replaced Igwe-Bike for those 2 games. 24-yard field goal attempt, and it is good. So Baltimore has moved into a 10-point lead in the CFL East first place showdown.
Try to nail down the last playoff spot in the West. Tom Burgess to Elbert Turner, 13 yards for Turner's second touchdown of the game to make it 21-1 Saskatchewan. Ottawa trying to come back. Danny Barrett 18 yards to Michael Richardson, who's in for the major score. It's 26-8 Saskatchewan at halftime in Ottawa. Again, if Saskatchewan wins today and Sacramento loses in Edmonton, then the Green Riders are in the playoffs. And here in Baltimore, Chris Armstrong's early touchdown and a field goal have the CFLers in front of Winnipeg by 10. Don?
Yes, Baltimore came into this game trailing Winnipeg by 2 points in the standings. If the 2 teams should wind up tied for first, Baltimore would have to win this game by 8 points to claim first place. Blaze Bryant is tackled by Tracy Gravely. Gravely is one of those undersized linebackers, actually a defensive back, moved into a linebacking position.
Well, that's one of the things that they've done here in Baltimore is they've sort of designed their defense along the same lines of the Edmonton Eskimos. They play 2 true down linemen and 6 linebacker defensive backs in this defensive scheme of things, and they've had a lot of success with it this year.
2nd and 9. Dunnigan over the middle for Gerald Alphen, and he can't hang on. He got it on his fingertips, but Ken Watson, the inside halfback, was able to prevent him from pulling it in.
Ken Watson, last year an all-star for the Calgary Stampeders, one of those free agent defensive backs that came over here at the start of the season with Baltimore. But that time you see him one-on-one against Alphen, and Alphen, as we all know, has great hands with those 17 touchdown receptions. But that time, great coverage by Watson to separate him from the football.
All 6 defensive backs dressed today for Baltimore have dressed for every game this season, which in itself is something of an oddity. Bob Cameron's punt bouncing back towards the line of scrimmage. And there's red nylon all over the natural grass surface here at Memorial Stadium after the 26-yard kick by Cameron.
Well, the thing about this Baltimore team, it's very aggressive. We've seen specialty teams already here in the first quarter play a big part in the game with the missed field goal return and now with the no-yard penalty.
56 Winnipeg. It's a 5-yard penalty. First down, Baltimore.
Dale Lyles trying to get out of that 5-yard range there, but the ball was bouncing back, and that's why it was only a 5-yard penalty. But Baltimore with great field position at the 53-yard line.
Baltimore leading by 10, 1st and 10. They are at their own 53. 5 receivers lined up wide to the left. Now Armstrong comes in motion across the formation. A hitch screen intended for Tui Peloto.
An odd formation that time by the Baltimore offense, Don, to come with 5 receivers one side, dual set back. But as we saw, they were once again trying to run that slip screen underneath the Tui Peloto, who is the team's 2nd leading receiver coming into today's game, and normally a sure-handed guy out of the backfield.
Again, Ham operates out of the shotgun in that fire offense. Dumps it off for Sean Beals, and Beals got away from the first man looking for a block, and he's taken out of bounds over on the far side of the field. A 37-yard pickup for Sean Beals, and Paul Randolph was able to force him out of bounds.
Well, you know, the thing that's so nice about this Baltimore offense is the complement of receivers and that he spreads the wealth around. Once again, Tracy Ham throwing the ball behind the receiver, but Sean Beal having great hand-eye coordination, able to pull it in, but picks up his blocking as he goes downfield. A great tackle by Randolph in the open field.
1st and 10. The ball is at the 20-yard line. Hand off to Pringle. Pringle trying to follow the blocking of Neil Fort. And he can get behind Neil Fort and be pretty much hidden when you take a look at the size of Neil Fort. 6'6" and about, well, they say 350 pounds, but they say they haven't been able to weigh him on the scale in the dressing room for a while.
He is one of the guys in the CFL that Miles Garrell really enjoys standing next to because he makes Miles look a little slim when they're standing side by side. He's a big right offensive tackle, and they've done a great job. You look at him, the mobility that he possesses. He came up in college in a passing attack at BYU, so pass blocking, they always knew he could be. Run blocking was a question.
An end zone pass intended for Wilson, incomplete.
Brings up 3rd down. I don't want to travel with a professional football team.
So Baltimore will again send out the field goal unit. The players were saying, as we take another look at the pass intended for Wilson, they weren't thinking about the 8 points they had to win this football game by. But subconsciously, I don't think there's any way they can help but think about it.
Subconsciously, you're going to think about it, but still the major thing is that you have to prove that you can beat Winnipeg first. The point difference will come in later, but if you can win the game, it's such a mental motivator because these teams may likely face each other in the playoffs.
Igwe with his 2nd field goal of the afternoon, much to the delight of team owner Jim Sparrows. And the Baltimore CFLers lead by 13. Scott?
Well, Don, Jim Sparrows is doing some business at the game today, using the enormous success of his team as a marketing tool for the CFL. He's got a potential investor from Memphis at the game. Pepper Rogers is his name, and he's got some Federal Express money behind him, we're told. Sparrows says he's a good bet to own a team next season. Sparrows also has a potential investor here today from Columbus, Ohio, although that investor is a few years away. Sparrows says he's also got an interested buyer on the line for the Vegas franchise. This, of course, all in an effort to create some much-needed American rivalries for Baltimore. And that's the business report, Don. Now to this wacky thing they call the football game.
Yes, and it's Blaze Bryant losing the football, and it's scooped up by Charles Anthony.
Don, a big break once again from Baltimore as they tried to run an inside trap play. Matt Goodwin, who has been Baltimore's most outstanding defensive player all year, gets his hand in and strips Bryant along with some help from O.J. Brigance. But Charles Anthony came up, scooped up the ball, and Baltimore once again with the ball in great field position at the 39-yard line.
Trailing by 13. Winnipeg can ill afford to provide Baltimore with the scoring opportunity they now have. 1st and 10 from the Winnipeg 39. Intended for Drummond. They were trying that hitch screen that has been executed with a fair bit of success in the early stages of this ball game, but Ham simply missed Drummond with the pass.
Well, that time Ham, we've seen it. He's been off the mark a few passes this afternoon, but the receivers have made great efforts to make the reception. That time he just threw it on a rope, and Drummond couldn't get inside fast enough to make the reception.
On 2nd and 10, Ham out of the shotgun over the middle to Armstrong. Armstrong got away from Darrell Sampson and then is tackled by Donald Smith. Whatever Ham sees, he's having success. He has them in scoring position in this opening quarter. Boy, talk about a guy having his career rejuvenated with a change in scenery. Chris Armstrong certainly has. In '91, he was with Edmonton. In '92, he split the year between Edmonton and Ottawa. He has had more pass reception yardage this season than he had in his previous 2 years in total in the CFL.
Don, when you speak about career rejuvenation, when you think about Mike Pringle, Tracy Ham, and Chris Armstrong as a trio, this was the hub of the '91 Edmonton offense, and now they're the hub of the '94 Baltimore offense.
Handoff inside to Pringle, big hole, touchdown. touchdown. Keith Ballard with a huge block to spring Pringle loose up the middle for a 23-yard touchdown run.
And that's one of the things that this offense has done so well all year long is run the inside trap and the counter trade. That time was a perfect example with Ballard pulling on the inside trap, the kick out block, Pringle reading it perfectly, and he was off to the races. Sampson didn't have a chance to catch him. Touchdown the result.
7 carries for 69 yards for Mike Pringle, and the Baltimore CFLers are threatening to turn this first place showdown into a blowout.
Don, when you think about it, in the last time these two teams faced each other, Pringle carried the ball 13 times for 62 yards for the whole game, and he has 67 yards already here in the first quarter. And this defense right now for Winnipeg is playing back on the heels, but Ballard's block, just a crushing block on the linebackers. He stepped up in the hole, and Pringle high-stepped into the end zone. Greg Clark, we see him trying to flow, gets caught up by Early, could not get across, and Pringle was galloping.
Greg Clark last week in the Bomber comeback against Hamilton had a huge game. He made 11 tackles. He was a very busy man for the Blue Bombers, and Cal Murphy has been very complimentary in assessing the play of Greg Clark. He claims he's one of the best linebackers he's ever seen. But you talked about Pringle. At the start of the year, he was the backup to Sheldon Canley as the running back for Baltimore.
Only gained 4 yards in the initial game of the year for the Baltimore Colts. And you spoke earlier, Don, about the 8-point difference being in the back of the Baltimore players' mind. I think right now it's in the front of the Winnipeg players' mind because they're down by 20 and Baltimore has a plus 12 in that scoring department for first place.
Blaze Bryant on the kickoff return. No opportunities. He's taken out of bounds right at the 35-yard line by Robert Drummond. Only 10 yards on the return for Bryant. Cal Murphy saw his team come from behind a 34-7 deficit last week against Hamilton to win 46-44. But he and every member of his organization is well aware that coming from behind against Baltimore is going to be a much more difficult task.
It's a different situation, two different ball clubs. Hamilton has had a lot of misfortune as of late, but this Baltimore team knows how to play 60 minutes of football.
Chris Johnson takes the pass coming out of the backfield for a pickup of about 6 yards. It was all Baltimore during the opening quarter. Winnipeg without a first down. As a matter of fact, they were -2 in net yards, 187 net yards for Baltimore. And consider this, Winnipeg intercepted a pass on the second play of the game, and it looked as though they were going to score a touchdown by Donald Smith, but it was wiped out by an infraction, a blocking from behind call. Blaze Bryant is going to be stopped for a loss on the second down play by Malcolm Goodwin, the middle linebacker.
Don, this Baltimore defense right now is playing fired up, inspirational football. That time, Malcolm Goodwin lined up at the left defensive end position. Chris Walby could not get down quick enough from his tackle position. He shot the gap, and he stopped Bryant in the backfield for a loss on the play. The defensive game plan that Coach Matthews and his coaching staff put together today is being perfectly executed against this Winnipeg offense.
And Baltimore was only a 2-point favorite coming into this football game, but Baltimore right now enjoys a 20-point lead with 13:39 remaining in the first half.
Set 3 records. There's a definite pattern in his rushing. The Baltimore CFLers are 7-0 when Pringle breaks 100 yards. By the way, in July when the Bombers hosted Baltimore, and James has mentioned this, Pringle had 62 yards and Baltimore lost. So you know then stopping Pringle was a Winnipeg priority today, Don.
Well, they haven't been able to stop him so far. Lester Smith is the man on this punt return, getting it back to the 50-yard line. Cameron hasn't been punting well at all this afternoon. That was only a 30-yard kick with a 7-yard return.
No, Bob Cameron is more noted as a fine punter than what we've seen. That punt came very close to being blocked by Matt Goodwin, who has blocked 7 punts on the season. He came within a hair of making it 8 on that play. But Baltimore, once again, they've been operating with the short field all afternoon. And with the ball at the 50-yard line and the way that Tracy Ham has been picking them apart, they need to come up with a big defensive stand down.
Maybe one of the problems for Cameron is that he has a new man centering the ball for him. Dave Van Conant has been pressed into service as the long snapper with the injury to Kevin Robson last week against Hamilton. Ham is on the move. Clark is after him, can't catch him. Offensively, Baltimore is almost doing as it pleases so far against Winnipeg.
Well, one of the things with Winnipeg, this is an AstroTurf team, and when you come down to the natural surface and have to play, watch here on the corner as Lyles make that Randolph slips down and Ham is able to elude him outside, but Sean Fields with a great block to get Ham around the corner, and Ham picks up extra yardage down to the 38-yard line.
A gain of 17 for Tracy Ham. It's 1st and 10 Baltimore. They are at the Winnipeg 38. Pretty good average for Tracy Ham. Almost 11 yards per carry today.
I'll take that.
Inside handoff to Pringle, who turns it to the outside. Reggie Gibbons catches up with him. Gibbons in his debut against Shreveport had an outstanding football game and a Bomber victory.
You know, there's Winnipeg, for some reason, is able to find those consistent, same-size linebackers. And
They've got a linebacker factor.
Oh, okay. I'll take that. But Gibbons right there exemplified great mobility and being able to track down Pringle before he could get on track to the outside.
Out of Penn State. Penalty flag, as there was some movement by Joe Washington, and it appeared as though he may have crossed the line of scrimmage prior to the ball being snapped. Cal Murphy watched a lot of Reggie Gibbons when he was having his heart transplant operation.
Baltimore. Second down repeated.
He was in London, Ontario, and he used to watch a lot of Penn State football games at that time, and he thought, if this man ever becomes available, I'm going to try and grab him and put him on his neg list.
Would you call that a cheap scouting trip? Well, right there, he paid dividends on that play of stopping Pringle, but right now, this could be the biggest play of the half thus far for the Winnipeg defense, because if Baltimore can pick up a first down, they're going to be in a deep hole.
Ham with good protection. And he overthrew Walter Wilson. Donald Smith was over attempting to cover Wilson. As Wilson turned it the other way, Smith slipped and went down, but Ham simply overthrew Wilson.
Just too far to throw the ball, and that time, good decision by Tracy Ham. He just didn't get the ball to where he wanted to get it to. But once again, we see another Blue Bomber slipping on this natural surface here in Baltimore. And players, they've only been in town a few hours. They didn't get a chance to work out on the field yesterday, and they've had some footing problems.
This will be a 50-yard field goal attempt by Donald Igwe-Bike. It's good. He's 3 for 3 on the afternoon, and Baltimore leads 23-0. We'll be back after this.
The CFLer is running away with this first place showdown, up 23-0. There's Blaze Bryant, second leading rusher in the league. We talked about what a great game Mike Pringle's having for Baltimore. Bryant's at the other end of the spectrum. He's got an aggravation of his right knee, and they're not sure, Don, if he'll be able to return to this game. They're hopeful he may be able to come back in the second half, but right now his continued participation is in some doubt.
Bryant came into this game with 1,283 yards as the second leading receiver in the CFL, and there's the second leading pass catcher in the CFL, Gerald Wilcox, with his first reception of the afternoon, his 98th of the season. He's almost a certainty to become only the 10th player in CFL history to catch 100 or more passes in a season.
And Don, I think even more significant than that, he will be only the second Canadian to accomplish that feat. Dave Sapunjik did it last year with Calgary, and now Gerald Wilcox is about to accomplish that feat for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers.
Winnipeg's initial first down of the afternoon. Wilcox with his second catch, and Winnipeg's second first down at the Baltimore 51-yard line.
What we're going to get now with the loss of Blaze Bryant out of the backfield for Winnipeg is just a wide open passing attack by Matt Dunnigan. He is not going to concern himself now with trying to establish a running game. He knows that he has 4 great targets in the slots and in the wideouts in his passing attack, and you'll see him consistently throwing the ball now.
And Wilcox was also the favorite target of Dunnigan the first time these two teams met. Now he's going deep for Alfred Jackson, incomplete, a penalty flag. Thrown against Irvin Smith.
is a penalty call that's going to be very questionable, because it looked like wonderful coverage by Donald Smith. Alfred Jackson, the player that they wanted to get, make that Irvin Smith. Alfred Jackson, the player that they thought that they could get deep. But as we get a replay, look at the coverage by Irvin Smith, who is right there, who comes over and gets that right arm in and deflects the ball away, but he's hit with a flag on the play. We get a better look right here. It's hard to see it. The official right on top of the plate makes the call, but it's one of those that gonna hurt Baltimore.
It's a 39-yard pickup as a result of the penalty. It's Winnipeg 1st and 10 from the Baltimore 11. And this large crowd at Memorial Stadium certainly didn't like the call. The pass to Wilcox. He loses the football. It's loose in the end zone and recovered by Baltimore. Well, Gerald Wilcox's milestone reception is not one that he will fondly recall, as he loses the ball at the 1-yard line, and it rolls into the end zone where it's recovered by Baltimore.
The key to this play is that Wilcox's body never touches the ground. Watch as he fights for extra yardage as he tries to elude Anthony. The ball is knocked loose before he hits the ground. Great pursuit by the Baltimore defense. Michael Brooks makes the recovery in the end zone. We get another shot. Watch Wilcox's knees. They do not touch the ground. The ball is deflected out by Charles Anthony. Very headsy play by the Baltimore defense.
So the score holds at 23-0. Gerald Wilcox now with 100 receptions for the season. And Mike Pringle takes it to the outside. Arrow Brown is able to drag him down, but not before he picks up 7 yards. You talked earlier about Pringle and the fact that he was a backup early in the season and ran for only 4 yards in his first game of the year. Check these numbers. In his last 8 games, he has rushed for 1,165 yards. So he had 527 yards in his first 8 games and has come on like gangbusters in the last half of the season.
He has, Don, and as Scott had alluded to earlier, the 7 games that he had gone over 100 yards, Baltimore has won all 7 of those games.
Pringle again, and he is up to the 42-yard line, stopped there by Randolph.
What has made Pringle so effective in his running is that his reading ability is seen to expand. His peripheral vision, he gets the ball, he starts out one direction, and he's able to cut back against the flow, pick up the holes, and explode and pick up positive yardage.
119 yards away from breaking Willie Burton's single-season rushing record. Intended for Wilson, incomplete.
That's a play that Baltimore has consistently gone to, is that slip screen. A couple of times Tracy Ham has thrown the ball short, as he did on this last play with Walter Wilson, but that's something defensively. If Donald Smith gets a good read on it, as we saw earlier, he can jump one of those and take it back the other direction.
2nd and 10. The ball is at the 42. Tracy Ham is in the shotgun formation. 3 receivers wide to his right. Knocked down by Darrell Sampson as Ham attempted to lob it over the Winnipeg defensive back and into the arms of Walter Wilson.
Well, Sampson that time with good coverage in the secondary had his eyes on Tracy Ham the whole way, went up and got the ball at its highest point, but Winnipeg able to make a defensive stand. But how long can you keep asking your defense to come up with big series after big series when the offense keeps turning the ball over?
This is the first punt of the day for Josh Miller.
He leads the CFL in punting with a 43-yard average.
And he must feel like he's been on a bit of a vacation today at Memorial Stadium.
Kickers are not much of athletes anyway, so anytime they can get a break, they appreciate it.
Boyko takes the ball at the 31-yard line. And Boyko brings it back to the 40, a return of 9. A 37-yard kick, a 9-yard run back with 8:17 left in the first half. 3 receptions so far this afternoon, now 100 on the season. Only the 10th player in CFL history to reach the century mark in receptions in 1 year. Alan Pitts of the Calgary Stampeders has done it 3 times. 91, 92, and again this year. Pitts was on pace to easily reach the 100 mark total last year before going down with an injury. Pass is complete to Gerald Alphen, but he's not going anywhere as he goes down at the 46-yard line. The Bomber players seem to be having some problems with the footing. A number of times, receivers and defensive backs have slipped trying to make a cut.
Well, that's one of the problems you have when you don't get in early enough where you can adjust your footwear and come out and sample the turf that you're going to be playing on. And the footing has been a problem this in the first half for the Bombers.
Tim Daniel lines up wide to the right. Pass complete to Gerald Alphen, and Alphen has a first down, taking the ball to the Baltimore 51. Brought down there by Charles Anthony.
Well, this is where Winnipeg has had some success in the middle of the field. We see the quick out to Alphen here coming right into your living room, the ball from Matt Dunnigan. But Baltimore has been finding ways defensively when they've gotten down in the red zone, gotten close, to come up with the big plays. We saw the fumble on the last series by Wilcox to stop the drive by Winnipeg, and Baltimore recovered the fumble in the end zone and got the ball at 35.
First and 10 from the Baltimore 51. Deep for Alfred Jackson. Incomplete. Jackson got tangled up with the man who was covering him over on the far side, Urban Smith. Jackson's big game, the second game of the season, 7 catches for 308 yards and 4 touchdowns against Edmonton. That was the game that Matt Dunnigan set the CFL record with 713 passing yards.
Well, that was just a marvelous offensive night for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, but this afternoon it's been a different story thus far. This Baltimore defense has had the right coverages. They've been getting pressure on Matt Dunnigan. His receivers haven't found many open lanes, and now he has to convert a 2nd and 10.
Penalty flag, the pass to Wilcox, and Wilcox takes it to the Baltimore 28-yard line. But it will probably be called back. Holding against Winnipeg.
Holding, 57 Winnipeg, 2nd down repeated.
Bud Steen's had a busy first half, and Coach Cal Murphy not too pleased as Brett McNeil, the left offensive guard, was flagged for holding on the play when Winnipeg seemed to have picked up a first down and keep the drive alive on a pass to Wilcox. Now Matt Dunnigan is faced with a 2nd and 20.
And the Bombers are backed up to their own 49-yard line. Winnipeg trails 23-0. Dunnigan is flushed out of the pocket, throws for Wilcox. Good recovery by Ken Watson. It appeared as though Wilcox had beaten Watson on the play, and it looked as though Dunnigan had found him. But the veteran defensive back got a hand on the pass.
Don, great execution by Matt Dunnigan, buying himself some extra time, getting outside the pocket. But one of the problems that many quarterbacks face when they throw back across the field when they're running away is that they don't get enough on the ball. Dunnigan made a great effort, but Wilcox looks like he may have dislocated or jammed a finger there on the sideline in trying to make that reception. But Ken Watson, very headsy defensive play to bat that one away.
Much better punt by Cameron as Lester Smith takes it at the 18-yard line. And he's spilled as he hits the 27 by Chris Sangaris. That was a 9-yard return after a 43-yard punt. 23-0. Baltimore leads. Let's go to the sidelines, and here's Scott.
Well, Don, the Bombers prepared more than adequately for this game. I delicately, I should say, broached the topic of late arrival in Baltimore with some of the players on the bench. It would have to be delicate given the current situation here, and no one is willing to use it as an excuse. They say they were pumped and ready for this game. One thing they did in Winnipeg this week was practice twice with loudspeakers to simulate the noise they encounter on the enclosed end of Memorial Stadium, and they've got hand signals ready in case they have to use them. Although, of course, now, Don, they just love the opportunity, I think, to be in that end of the field with a chance to put some points on the board.
Yes, they'd love to get anywhere close to the end zone, and right now Pringle, the ball carrier, takes it up to the 34 as Tony Hill made the tackle, but this will be close to another 7-yard gain for Mike Pringle. Pringle has had 2 games this year where he has run for over 200 yards, on September 3rd against Shreveport and against these guys last week. No, pardon me. It was the BC Lions last week for 216 yards.
Might be some people out on the coast not take a liking to you the next time you show up.
Complete to Walter Wilson. First down at the 50. You
know, Tracy Ham here in the first half has just been a pinpoint passer. He puts this ball on a rope. People from time to time have questioned his arm strength, but that time he left no doubt where that ball was going to go. Hit Walter Wilson right between the numbers out to the 50-yard line, and a first down once again for Baltimore.
Hand off to Pringle, and Pringle gets a hold. Oh, he's caught from behind, or he might have gone all the way. Safety, Errol Brown is the man who corralled him, but not before he got to the Winnipeg 45-yard line.
A saving tackle by Errol Brown, but once again, a quick hitter on a counter inside. Mike Pringle going through the right. Ballard with the kick out along with Tui Pelotu, but Errol Brown with the hand on the back of the pads bringing him down. Great shot by Mike Pringle hitting that hole. Right here we see Neil Fort working on Hill. Hill has had problems this afternoon. His height has been a disadvantage for him.
12 carries for 108 yards for Pringle as Washington grabs the Tracy Ham throw at the 30-yard line. Tackled there by Lawrence Hatch, but it's another Baltimore first down. And with the 108 rushing yards for Pringle, the 8th time this year that he has had a 100-yard or better game.
Well, when you look at what Pringle has done with the pass here to Joe Washington, we get another look on a deep slant route. And Winnipeg has had problems in their secondary. And right now, Baltimore is threatening. They're very close to the red zone once again.
1st and 10, Baltimore at the Winnipeg 30-yard line. Baltimore leads by 23. Pringle, the ball carrier. This time, his forward progress will be halted after a pickup of about 3 or 4. Baltimore in complete control of this first-place showdown at Memorial Stadium. Welcome back to Memorial Stadium in Baltimore, and Mike Pringle with 108 rushing yards this afternoon now has the 2nd highest rushing total in CFL history. He has gone past Robert Mims and Earl Lunsford. 1896 is the record set by Willie Burton in 1975. And Mike Pringle might get that CFL rushing record this afternoon at the rate he's going.
Well, if they don't fasten up those chin straps on the Winnipeg side of the defense, he'll get it before the 4th quarter is over.
Hand off again to Pringle. Pringle cuts inside, and he takes the ball down to the 16-yard line. Stopped there by Paul Randolph, but it's another Baltimore first down.
When you think about Mike Pringle, last year all season long, he gained 366 yards on the ground, but here in the last 2 games that he's played, he's already amassed that many yards in the past 2 games. 216 last week already. He's rushed for over 120 here in this game.
Followed the blocking of 6'4", 300-pound Keith Ballard. Pass intended for Walter Wilson, incomplete. 2nd and 10, Baltimore.
Right now, this Winnipeg defense, Don, is on their heels. It doesn't seem like they're playing with a lot of confidence. And Tracy Ham has been a master on the field this afternoon in mixing his plays. We see the ball as it falls out of the grasp of Walter Wilson right here, but he's mixing the running of Pringle and his passing. All 4 of his receivers this afternoon have caught balls, so you can't key on one segment of their offense.
Ham looks to the corner of the end zone. Armstrong, touchdown. The 2nd touchdown of the afternoon for Chris Armstrong, his 17th of the season.
You speak about the 2nd touchdown. Watch the up route that he runs right here. Great positioning by Armstrong as he gets behind Evans in the backfield for the touchdown. His 2nd of the game, his 17th on the year, his 6th game of the season where he's had a multiple touchdown game.
Donald Igwebike with the extra point. And the Baltimore CFLers are continuing to pour it on with 2:15 remaining in the 2nd quarter.
I think that this is a team that we're looking at right now that's playing with a great deal of confidence. When you look on the other sideline at the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, they have to be shell-shocked, but Tracy Ham has got multitudes of time from his offensive line this afternoon. He is not being pressured, and you see right there the celebration after the touchdown.
As we mentioned earlier, Armstrong contacted Head coach Don Matthews wanting a tryout with Baltimore, and the only question Matthews had when he spoke with Armstrong was whether or not he still had speed. When he came in and was asked to run some time trials, he asked Coach Matthews what he wanted him to run, and he said 4.6 or 4.7. He said that's no problem. He ran under 4.5.
He came out and ran a 4.43 on grass, Don. He laughed really when Matthews told him what he needed to run. He said, how many times I have to run that? You know, on the first run when he did the 4.43, Matthews was satisfied. Armstrong has been a pleasant surprise for this team all season long, and as we've seen once again this afternoon, getting into the end zone on successive occasions here in the first half, and this team is really clicking on all cylinders this afternoon.
Igwe-Bike's kick went out of bounds, but it appears as though the Bombers are going to decline the penalty in scrimmage from the 35. .2:15 is the time remaining in the first half. 30-0. Baltimore leads Winnipeg. Pass falls behind Alfred Jackson. He was engaged in a battle down the sidelines with Irvin Smith. Let's go down to the sidelines, and here's Scott.
All right, Don, at halftime on Live at the Half today, where were three of the integral members of the Baltimore offense a year ago wallowing as opposed to prospering? We'll find out, and we'll see how expansion has turned around in the careers of Tracy Ham, Chris Armstrong, and Mike Pringle, who've been huge in this game today. And we'll have the latest from Ottawa, where the Eastern Riders are hosting Saskatchewan in a game with playoff implications.
You know, we've talked about Pringle and Armstrong having career years. Tracy Ham is on the verge of eclipsing a lot of his career marks passing-wise.
Dunnigan continues to try and go deep with Alfred Jackson, but he couldn't escape Irvin Smith. Dunnigan has managed just 6 completions in 14 attempts this afternoon for 61 yards. This year, in the 9 games he has played, he has had a 713-yard game, 2 games of over 400 yards, and 5 games of over 300 passing yards.
And how you're able to amass that type of yardage is to be a big play offense, such as Winnipeg, where you like to go deep often. But one of the problems, if you're not connecting, you have a situation where you're trailing by 30 points.
Good kick by Cameron again, taken by the lone man back there, Lester Smith. He broke the initial wave of tacklers and brings it up to the 52-yard line. A 14-yard return after a 37-yard punt. Winnipeg's specialist on special teams, Brendan Rogers, was there to make the tackle.
Well, that's been one of the bright spots for Winnipeg this afternoon, is their special team play. That's been the only way that they've been able to contain Baltimore in the first half, because the defense has not been able to stop this very potent offensive attack by the Baltimore CFLers this afternoon. I mean, you really have to admire Tracy Ham's leadership at what he's done here in the first half.
1:55 remaining in the half. 30-0. Baltimore leads Winnipeg. An opportunity for Baltimore to move into a first-place tie with the Bombers. And Mike Pringle continues his relentless pursuit of Willie Burton's rushing record set in 1975. Reggie Gibbons and Greg Clark made the tackle.
One of the big things that has allowed the success for Pringle this afternoon is his offensive line. They've been getting off the ball, and they get up in the face of those Winnipeg linebackers. And when you go size for size, it's a total mismatch, and Baltimore's been winning it.
Pringle is now just 75 yards away from breaking the record of Willie Burton, and it's Pringle again, and he's going to get the first down, taking it to the 45-yard line, tackled there by Lloyd Lewis. When talking with Don Matthews, we asked if a record consideration for Pringle would be in his plans in the event that Winnipeg, or that Baltimore took control of this football game. And he said, late in the football game, we'll do what we always do, give it to Mike.
Well, they've done it early in the game, and if it gets any better late in the game, I wouldn't want to be out there playing defense.
Pass is complete to Tuipulotu, and it's another Baltimore first down.
You know, we talk about the successes. We see Tuipulotu catch the ball coming out of the backfield, Baltimore's second leading receiver. But when you look at the offensive line of Baltimore that is key to success for this offense, it's a new offensive line, their first year playing together, and they've gelled. They have a fine unit. Fort and Pordanich have played every game at offensive tackle, and they've been the keys for it.
Too high for Washington. He was covered by Hatch. It will be 2nd and 10. Hatch has 6 interceptions in the 4 games he has played for Winnipeg, operating on the left corner. He's inclined at times to gamble and has been burned for a couple of touchdowns and then comes right back with an interception.
Well, that 6 interceptions in 4 games will
You thought it was a mistake in the printing of the league statistics.
Well, sometimes, things haven't been accurate all year long. But, he's been a fine young addition to the Winnipeg secondary, but no one has been able to stop the bleeding thus far this afternoon.
50 seconds remaining in the half. Wide open is Chris Armstrong. Stopped at the 3-yard line. Don Smith prevented Armstrong from scoring his 3rd touchdown of the day.
And just as you mentioned, no one can stop the bleeding. Once again, Tracy Ham brings out the surgical knife as he carves and dices up this Winnipeg secondary with Armstrong on a crossing route. And once again, we saw a Winnipeg defender slip down, but Armstrong weaving his way, trying to tiptoe into the end zone, being stopped short at the 3-yard line.
He's looking for Pringle in the end zone. It's incomplete. It will be 2nd and goal.
He thought he had the situation that he wanted. Greg Clark blew the coverage. Earl Brown coming over from his free safety, but Tracy Ham threw the ball behind Mike Pringle because he was standing all by himself in the end zone and possibly could have scored another touchdown if the ball had been on the mark.
26 seconds remaining in the half. 2nd and goal for Baltimore at the Winnipeg 3-yard line. Armstrong in motion across the formation. Ham looks that way, decides to keep. Touchdown. There's a penalty flag over on the far side of the field, but it is against Winnipeg, obviously, as referee Bud Steen signals that the touchdown by Tracy Ham will stand.
Going to get an offside call. Ham, very headsy play. He knows that Winnipeg will be dropping back into pass coverage. He saw the vacation there. The offensive line did a good job of collapsing those linebackers. You get those 300-plus linemen on those 220-pound linebackers. A total mismatch. Touchdown once again, Baltimore.
Well, the Blue Bombers have been guilty of giving up a lot of points in many of the games they have played this year, but they've also scored a few.
If you say guilty, they've committed a felony already here in the first half.
37-0. Baltimore leads Winnipeg. You think this big crowd is singing at Memorial Stadium this afternoon?
I think you have a very satisfied crowd of the first 30 minutes of football here at Memorial Stadium. Baltimore has the best road record in the CFL this season. They've had some problems at home in front of the huge crowd. They've struggled. But I think with the crowd today at Memorial Stadium and the performance that we've seen in the first half by Tracy Ham and company, you have a very pleased and satisfied audience here at Memorial Stadium today.
And consider this, Cal Murphy's team has lost just once to an Eastern Division opponent in the last 20 games.
Well, you said they lost. I think this afternoon they may be getting an education.
This isn't a loss. This is a humiliation. Tim Daniel is the man on the kickoff return for the Bombers, and he won't get beyond the 41-yard line. 15 seconds remaining in the half. An 11-yard return for Daniel.
Well, this is a situation where Matt Dunnigan is a true gunfighter. I mean, he will come out and he will sling on every down, but with only 15 seconds to go in the half, does he have the time to move his team down to at least get in Troy Westwood field goal range to get some points to salvage something out of the first half?
Well, the Bombers were down last week 34-7 against Hamilton. They sucked it up in the second half and wound up winning 46-44. The penalty on the play as Matt Pierce into the ball game, replacing Blaze Bryant. Should be close to a first down.
But when we talk about that Hamilton game last week, they lost Reggie Barnes, and when you don't have a back that can control the game on the ground, such as they were going against last week, and then you're coming into this game facing Mike Pringle. Back-to-back games, Winnipeg has let a running back amass over 100 yards rushing on the ground, and it's really hurt their defense because it's kept them on the field an exceptional amount of time, and we haven't seen any semblance of slowing down from Mike Pringle in the first half.
Penalty was against Baltimore. Dunnigan looks to the sidelines. Jackson takes it out, stopping the clock with 3 seconds remaining.
And now you'll get Troy Westwood coming on to try a long field goal attempt, well within his range, but it would be a big break for Winnipeg if they can get some points going into the locker room. Even though it's only 3, it shows that they can have some success against Baltimore.
Westwood has hit from 57 yards this season. That's been his longest of the year.
Well, this one is well within his range at 46 yards. And, you know, it's very important, Don, because he missed the one early in the first half where it went wide and Baltimore returned it. They're going to try to ice him here, take their time out. A very headsy call by Coach Don Matthews to let Troy Westwood think about it for a few more seconds.
Yes, just a little more time for Westwood to contemplate this field goal try. And Cal Murphy might be contemplating what he's going to say to his troops when he heads to the dressing room at halftime. He said last week against Hamilton, he didn't have to deliver any Winston Churchill type speeches. He said he simply told the players to go out and prove that you're a football team, which they did in the second half.
I think they'll get the same type of speech this week, just short and sweet. Hey, you see the score, you know what you have to do to overcome it. I can't make you play any better than what you can.
46-yard field goal attempt, and again it's wide. And Lester Smith is going to bring it out of the end zone, and that will end the first half at Memorial Stadium with the Baltimore CFLers leading Winnipeg 37-0. Let's go down to the sidelines, and here's Scott.
Don, the Bombers have a 2-point lead in the standings, but Baltimore owns this first-place showdown. It's a game befitting a battle for top spot on the East, but so far only for one team. Stand by now for Live at the Half. With first place on the line in Baltimore, the CFLers have responded to the pressure. They lead by 37, if a lead accurately describes that, and we welcome you now to Live at the Half. Well, they've made the playoffs, established one of the CFL's best records, won the hearts of their fans, and all of this in their first year of existence. And 3 reclamation projects have had a great deal to do with the astounding achievements of the Baltimore CFLers. The keys to the Baltimore offense were rescued from the scrap heap of the Canadian Football League only 8 months ago.
Pringle was always a good player, but he was never featured. And we didn't even know that about him until we started giving him the ball more and more. Chris Armstrong was always a big play guy, but when he's surrounded by other people that make bigger plays, then he gets overshadowed. Tracy Ham, boy, he's been a great player in this league, all except last year. So they've always had the skills. We just now try to let those guys do the things that they can do best.
As the leaves drop in the fall, Ham, Pringle, and Armstrong were dropped by their teams. Now they've been gathered up to play in Baltimore, and for Ham, it's sweet. He was a quarterback frozen out in Toronto.
Last year, I just didn't play a lot. I started and finished 2 games in Toronto, which was the first and the last game, and so I really didn't get to play. And when I did get to play, it was with someone hovering over my shoulder.
So he couldn't wait to get to Baltimore, where no one is looking over his shoulder. And Ham is back on MVP form, calling his own plays, running a fast-paced offense that involves everyone, especially Armstrong and Pringle.
It's been a group effort. It's been each individual, when given the opportunity to make a play, making a play. Mike Pringle has done just a great job. Anytime you have a running back who can do the things that he does with the ball, you find ways to get him the ball. I think Chris Armstrong has been somewhat rejuvenated with his play. And we have other guys who complement those guys well.
The trade at first came as a bit of a shock, and I Was just going to deal with it day by day and just wait for things to unfold. But they've unfolded quite well.
Actually, Pringle was given to Baltimore by Sacramento for future considerations, and now he's late in a magical season, on the verge of setting the CFL's all-time single-season rushing record.
I'm excited about it. I have my own personal goals that I set, and I set pretty high personal goals for myself. That's something I like to keep to myself. But the biggest goal that I set happens to be the team goal also, and that's to get to the Grey Cup.
When I first got here, I was just looking for an opportunity to play.
And play Armstrong has, after time on the unemployment line. In June, he came calling for a tryout with Baltimore. Tracy Ham, who played with Armstrong in Edmonton, gave him a reference, and Don Matthews gave the veteran receiver a shot.
Coach Matthews gives us a lot of freedom to do what we want to do on the field as far as what it takes for us to win. He lets athletes be athletes.
Offensively, it's been tremendous. I think Pringle, being the running back that he is, opens up the passing game, and Tracy Ham, being the unselfish player that he is, hands the ball off to Pringle when need be to set up the pass, and then he looks for his big deep threat guy, Chris Armstrong.
And call that a timely feature, as all three were major factors in Baltimore's first half dominance. Tracy Ham's touchdown in the dying minutes padded the CFLers' lead. Baltimore leads at the halfway point of their biggest game of the season. They need to win by 8, and so far they've got 29 more than that through 30 minutes. They're also battling on two fronts today for the final two playoff spots in the East and West, and when Live at the Half returns to Memorial Stadium in Baltimore, we'll update you on those two games. Here, it's a rout. The Baltimore CFLers in complete and total control of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers in this first place showdown. We'll be back.
$37-0. Baltimore leads Winnipeg to start the second half. And tomorrow, Hamilton at Calgary, and Calgary looking for revenge from their 27-24 loss to Hamilton on October the 16th. Tim Daniel takes the ball for Winnipeg to start the second half, and the man who had a punt return touchdown last week in the third quarter against Hamilton brings the ball back to the 52-yard line, a 24-yard return forced out by Lester Smith.
Well, Matt Dunnigan is going to have his hands full here in the second half. If a quarterback can come back from a 37-0 deficit, Matt Dunnigan is truly the quarterback that can do it. But without Blaze Bryant, who went down in the first half with a knee injury, and he is not starting the second half, it's not going to make things easy for him.
Matt Pierce remains in the ball game in place of Blaze Bryant, and this is Gerald Wilcox for a Winnipeg first down. Ken Watson came over to make the tackle. And Wilcox is a little slow in getting to his feet. Matt Dunnigan off to a slow start in this ball game, and when he finally started hitting his receivers, he went to Gerald Wilcox 3 times for 36 yards. Back-to-back passes actually in the first half. In the second quarter to Wilcox for Winnipeg's first 2 first downs of the game.
Well, now Gerald Wilcox has amassed 101 receptions on the season, a great attribute to Gerald Wilcox, but I think more important to him right now is that his team is able to get on the scoreboard, and it won't happen now.
Gravely intercepts, and Gravely is looking to go to the end zone. Dunnigan makes the tackle. Tracy Gravely read that one perfectly and returns it 37 yards.
Don, as Matt Dunnigan had honed in on Gerald Alphen, he had him running in the seam, but Tracy Gravely jumped the route from his linebacker position, came underneath, and that's the plus of having those big defensive backs playing linebacker. You have a lot of speed, and he returned that all the way down to the 35. Baltimore once again in great field position.
First and 10, Baltimore from the Winnipeg 35. Handoff to Pringle, and Pringle this time runs into some traffic after picking up about 4. Gravely
Mike Pringle on the carry.
Leads the Baltimore team with 57 tackles. He has previous CFL experience with Ottawa and BC, and that has been one of the keys to the success Baltimore has enjoyed this year, acquiring players and a coaching staff experienced in the ways of the CFL. Ham time is buried on second down. Paul Randolph and Del Lyles both got through on the Baltimore quarterback.
Don, that's about the biggest play that Baltimore's had other than the Smith interception that was called back in the first half. Defensively, Randolph, they needed to find someone to step up and make a play. Randolph came clean from the bottom. You saw as he got around the tackle on the play, picked up the sack, but Igwebuike, a 50-yard attempt. He hit one in the first half from this distance, so we know it's within his range.
And the 50-yard field goal Igwebuike kicked in the first half was his longest of the year. His previous best was a 49-yarder. This is his second 50-yard attempt, and for the second time from that distance, he is good. And the Baltimore CFLers have hit 40 points against Winnipeg.
Well, the thing is that when Baltimore has had the opportunity, that they have made Winnipeg pay for their mistakes this afternoon, and they resulted in points.
Well, I don't know what Cal Murphy may have said to his team in the dressing room at halftime, but this Winnipeg team needs something to get them going in the second half.
Well, Igwebuike just hammered that ball down. It cleared the uprights with plenty of distance to spare. Landed about 10 yards deep in the end zone. Nice, smooth, even stroke, and just sailed right in, and we'll send it down to the sideline to Scott.
James, you might be interested to know who the most popular Baltimore CFL players are in town, and kicker Donald Igwebuike is the one. He endeared himself to Baltimore fans way back in a preseason game against the Bombers, in which he booted the winning field goal in overtime with lightning bolts coming down. It was surreal, they say, and later he was cut for 2 games, then came back and went 4 for 4 in the pouring rain to endear himself even more to Baltimore fans. So as I say, he is the most recognizable of the Baltimore players. And Don, in response to your question about what Cal Murphy had to say at halftime, apparently very little. It worked last week when he said little, and the Bombers came back from the 34-7 deficit to defeat Hamilton, and he's trying the same thing here, although it's not looking good early in the second half.
Matt Pierce got the ball to the 40-yard line. It will be 2nd and 5, Winnipeg. Wilcox will get a Winnipeg first down, and he takes it out of bounds at the 48.
Matt has had some success throwing from sideline to sideline, but the big thing is Wilcox is a very good target to keep finding, but you have to go down the field vertically. He's been playing a lateral game thus far. Now he has to take some chances. The last time he did, Gravely made him pay for it in a soft pass over the middle. He took it back the other way, resulted in Baltimore points, but he's going to have to go up over the top more consistently here in the second half.
Well, they thought they could utilize the speed of Alfred Jackson and Tim Daniels. So far, Dunnigan has not tried to go deep with Tim Daniel. The shovel pass inside to Chris Johnston. And Johnston takes it to Baltimore's 45-yard line for another Winnipeg first down.
That's a good, safe play to help to keep the defense honest, because they can sit back in that deep zone, double deep zone, and allow him to throw underneath it. With Johnstone here with the shovel pass underneath, it's going to force the secondary to come up just a little tighter, and he may be able to go over the top with a couple passes.
O.J. Brigance found himself trapped deep when Dunnigan shoveled it off. He thought he was going to have a sack. The pass intended for Alphen incomplete. Charles Anthony was over defending against Alphen.
Well, at this point, I guess Matt is just going to stay content in throwing the little out routes to Alphen and Wilcox. They're safe passes when you can get no support from the linebackers out in the flat, but also it can become a jeopardizing situation if a defensive back wants to gamble.
Ed Cousy, number 53, is in the ball game. He's a replacement for a replacement. Kevin Robson had taken over for the injured David Black. Robson had a very unusual accident. He was hit in the eye with an official's flag, and Cousy is the starter as a result. Alphen makes the catch, takes the ball to the 27-yard line of Baltimore. Tackled there by Ken Watson.
Well, Matt Dunnigan at this point is finding some consistency in his throwing. Alphen once again on a quick slant across the middle. Last time that play was picked off. This time Ken Watson gave him too much room to work with, and he picks up another first down at the 28-yard line.
Baltimore felt they could do a pretty good job of matching up inside against the size of the two Geralds. Anthony is 6'2", 195. Watson 6'2", 200 pounds. Penalty flag as Dunnigan looks for Alphen incomplete.
I think we're going to get one of the Goodwin brothers offside for Baltimore coming up on a blitz from that outside linebacker position. Number 39, Matt Goodwin, was caught in the neutral zone.
Offside, Baltimore 56, first down repeated.
Matt Goodwin, the rookie nominee for Baltimore, has done everything Don Matthews anticipated he might and more.
Well, he has done. He leads the team in blocks. He has 7 block kicks on the season. He came into this game with 3 interceptions, has picked off 1, has 4 now on the season, and also had 49 tackles coming into this game, and he was the outstanding defensive nominee for Baltimore's team.
First and 5, Dunnigan is in trouble. He got away from Payton, throws for Wilcox a little too high. It will be second and 5, Winnipeg, at the Baltimore 22.
Matt Dunnigan has felt all types of pressure, not only from the pass rush, but from the coverage of Baltimore this afternoon. Payton went in too high in trying to make the tackle on Matt Dunnigan. Matt Dunnigan, a very strong quarterback, able to elude the tackle of Payton and get the ball downfield in an attempt to try to get it to Wilcox, but the ball fell awry, and it's second and long, second and medium.
Or second and 5.
Halfway, second and halfway.
Handoff to Pierce, and he was caught right at the line of scrimmage by Gerald Bayless. There was some question as to whether Bayless would be able to play this afternoon. He suffered a calf injury that forced him out of last week's game against BC. He didn't practice for the first couple of days of this week, but Don Matthews was saying that by resting Bayless and not perhaps aggravating the injury in the second half against BC, he was able to recover and suit up today.
Well, this is one of those big games that the little injuries you put aside until after the game. And with Winnipeg trailing by 40, they're going to go for it here on third down.
Third down gamble for the Blue Bombers, and it pays off with Gerald Wilcox making the catch.
You know, back to that play prior to this, one of the things we saw with Matt Pierce being stopped in the backfield by Gerald Bayless, you lost the quickness of a Blaze Bryant, and it hurt your ground attack. Matt Pierce is a very capable runner, but he doesn't possess the explosiveness of a Blaze Bryant.
Wilcox now has 103 catches on the season for 68 yards, and 103 catches is the record for a Canadian receiver set last year by Dave Sabundis. Dunnigan still on his feet, but he finally has too many blue uniforms around him, and Alfred Payton and O.J. Brigance finally prevented from throwing back at the 28.
Well, Gerald Bayless had the initial assault on Matt Dunnigan as he came through. We'll get a look at it here as Bayless comes and wraps him up around the leg, flushes him out of the pocket. Brigance arrives along with Gravely and Payton, but big play needed by the Baltimore defense, and they came up with it. You see a frustrated Matt Dunnigan because his offense has been totally ineffective this afternoon against this Baltimore defense.
Well, when you talk about CFL experience, O.J. Brigance, Alfred Payton, and Gerald Bayless, 3 of the 4 up front are all ex-CFLers elsewhere.
Brian's dress certainly tells us all we need to know about his status in this game. Blaze, twisted knee. What's the prognosis?
They say it's like collateral, but I don't know, what the diagnosis is. We're going to get an X-ray when we get back to Winnipeg, and hopefully everything will be okay.
All right, I'm not sure what to ask you about this mess today, but I'll think of something as soon as we have an opportunity. Right now, I'll throw it back to Don for some football business. Don?
And earlier in the year, Keith Woodside in the game against Calgary replaced Blaze Bryant. And if Bryant is unable to play next week, I'm sure that Woodside will be activated by the Blue Bombers. Intended for Jackson down in the goal area, incomplete. Again, he was battling with Irvin Smith.
Well, Scott Miller just came into the game to replace Gerald Bayless, and being a little antsy, got caught off sides on the play. It's going to give Baltimore a new play, and let's go back down to Scott one more time.
James, thank you, James. Blaze, quickly, I don't know what to say except what's going on out there.
I think we just came out sluggish and got too far behind too early, and I don't know if we can pull it off. We're going to try our best.
Yeah, it's a huge deficit. I guess the big question for you is, can you play next week in a game the Bombers are going to have to win?
I'm going to need to play next week, and hopefully if everything's all right, I'll be back next week and dressed up and ready to go.
Blaze, thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Don?
Next week, Winnipeg is at home to the Toronto Argonauts, and that has the potential of being a semifinal playoff preview. Alfred Jackson in the corner of the end zone gets tangled up with Carl Anthony, and a penalty flag flies.
Well, that ball seemed to be an uncatchable ball in the corner of the end zone, and the flag came awful late after the ball had sailed over everyone's head, and Winnipeg is going to receive a first down out of the play. Matthews a little disgusted with the call on the sideline.
First down, Winnipeg on the 1.
First and goal for the Blue Bombers from the 1-yard line. The last time these teams met, and Matthews talked about it, Winnipeg overcame a 25-10 halftime deficit.
Well, we get a look as Matt Dunnigan takes a tremendous shot in the pocket, but that ball was well over the head of Anthony, and Jackson actually fell out of bounds, so technically an uncatchable ball.
Pass into the end zone to Gerald Wilcox for the touchdown, and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers are finally on the board with 6:42 remaining in the third quarter.
Well, it was a very tough call to make, and it set up the Winnipeg Blue Bombers in prime scoring position, and they were able to take advantage of it. We get a good shot of Matt Dunnigan on a half roll right, pumps it in to Gerald Wilcox, who had escaped out into the flat unmolested for the touchdown.
On to attempt the extra point, Troy Westwood of Winnipeg.
The point after by Troy Westwood. And it's a 40-7 ball game. And we'll be back with the Winnipeg kickoff after this. With 7 catches today and now 104 on the season, Gerald Wilcox is the second highest single season receiver in Blue Bomber history. Only James Murphy with 116 in 1986 has caught more.
Well, Gerald Wilcox has really blossomed into a fine receiver since coming over in that trade with the Ottawa Rough Riders. He's been a great addition for this Winnipeg offensive attack.
Mike Pringle is the man bringing it back on the kickoff for Baltimore, and he returns it to the 35-yard line, a 25-yard run back, cut down by Daryl Sampson.
Now that Winnipeg has something to build on offensively, can their defense come up with a stand? They've been on the field most of the game this afternoon, and this Baltimore offense has just moved up and down the field at will against them. The last time out, they were able to stop Baltimore and force them into a long field goal. Now they need to be able to come up with a turnover possibly and give the offense the ball in good field position.
First and 10 for Baltimore from the 35-yard line. Pringle, the lone setback behind Ham, who is taking plenty of time. In fact, he takes too much time in calling the play. And this will be a procedure call against Baltimore.
Well, see, that's one of the things that goes against Baltimore. Even though it's a 5-yard penalty, a mental error early after Winnipeg had gone down and got on the scoreboard, now you give Winnipeg's defense that motivational advantage right now that they can stop you.
First and 15. Intended for Walter Wilson, incomplete. Wilson protests, and so do the fans. He got tangled up with Daryl Sampson. But it's second and 15, Baltimore.
Well, it looked like they got their feet tangled up, and Sampson ran up on Wilson's heels, and Joe Washington is down across the field. And it's been a pretty injury-free game for Baltimore, but now they're starting to lose players and make mental errors, and this is maybe the break that Winnipeg needs to get back in this game.
5:55 is the time remaining, or 56 remaining in the third quarter. Time remaining in the third quarter, Winnipeg trailing by 33. Baltimore is looking at second and 15. The CFLers are at their own 30-yard line.
And they're looking at a Winnipeg defense that has had some inspiration installed into it here in the third quarter and is looking for an opportunity to make a big play.
Robert Park comes in to take over from Washington as a Baltimore receiver. Ham throws to the sidelines, and the pass incomplete. Caught by Armstrong, but they rule he was out of bounds.
And Armstrong is yelling that he was driven out of bounds. He would have came down in the field of play if he had not have been hit. Let's go down to Scott once again.
All right, James, updates now from the games that could decide the last playoff spot in the West, and maybe today in Ottawa, Saskatchewan's defeated the Eastern Riders 46-29. So if Edmonton could defeat Sacramento, they do Saskatchewan a huge favor because that would put the Riders into the playoffs today. But as it is, Sacramento in front of Edmonton 6-0 in the first half.
And it looks like it's going to come down to the final week of the season once again between Ottawa and Hamilton for that last playoff spot.
And Hamilton is at home next week to the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Miller's kick goes over the head of Daniel. And Daniel has nowhere to go as Walton corrals him after a 52-yard kick and a 2-yard return. And what is interesting about the victory by Saskatchewan, the Roughriders still have a shot at third place. They can still catch the BC Lions for third place in the West.
They can catch the BC Lions, and they can also tie the Edmonton Eskimos, but with the point differential, Edmonton would end up with second place. We get a shot of Josh Miller here, the CFL's leading punter in his rookie season out of the University of Arizona. Has been a fine addition for this team, and he not only leads the league in punting, but net yardage also, so the returns on his punts have been very limited by the opposing teams.
On first down, Dunnigan throws to Jackson. Jackson tried to cut it again. He went down as he slipped at the 53-yard line. Seems to be more of a problem for the Winnipeg secondary and receivers in making their moves on this natural grass surface at Memorial Stadium than it does for the Baltimore players.
Well, Don, you get players that are very accustomed to playing on the artificial surface, and when you're there, you have much more sure footing, and then when you come to the natural surface, such as here at Memorial Stadium, at Commonwealth, in Edmonton, in Sacramento, and in Shreveport, players have to be on the field and have some practice time so they can adjust their footwear.
Dunnigan to Jackson, and Jackson has another Winnipeg first down.
That was a great execution that time between Matt Dunnigan and Alfred Jackson. Alfred Jackson had driven off Irving Smith, came back to get the separation to allow his quarterback Matt Dunnigan an easy target, went up high, made the reception, stepped out of bounds. First down once again, Winnipeg.
After being injured and missing the last 3 games, Jackson has returned to the lineup today, replacing Jamie Holland. He has 3 catches for 56 yards so far. First and 10, Winnipeg. The ball is at the 43. The handoff inside to Matt Pierce, and Pierce with a big hole down to the 22-yard line. Stopped there by safety, Michael Brooks.
Don, when you look at this situation, and Baltimore had the 40-point lead, in the CFL, that's not an insurmountable lead, and we saw last week with Winnipeg able to come back from that huge deficit against Hamilton. Matt Pierce finding easy trading through the middle of that Baltimore defense. They're going to have to toughen up their coverage. They got to go back to that same mentality that they played with in the first half if they expect to hold on to this, because this game is not over by any means.
Matt Pierce with a 21-yard gain. Now Dunnigan looks to the corner of the end zone, incomplete, intended for Jackson. And Irvin Smith did an excellent job of defending against him.
Irvin Smith with the inside position, using the sideline as an ally, not allowing Jackson to come back inside, keeping him right there on the side, forcing him to run up straight down the field, can't break towards the ball. Great one-on-one coverage. That's how it's designed. That's how it's played. Excellent execution.
Well, Jackson, even had he been able to make that catch, had stepped out of the field and play, and the officials would have had to rule whether he went out on his own or whether he was forced out by Irvin Smith.
So we'll deal with second and 10.
And this is Gerald Wilcox overthrown by Matt Dunnigan. Ken Watson was defending against him. Some teams have real difficulty with the size of the Winnipeg slot backs. Wilcox, 6'2", 215. Alphen, 6'3", 210. As I mentioned earlier, Charles Anthony and Ken Watson, in the opinion of Don Matthews, match up pretty well against those.
Well, they match up well, but the key, Don, in today's game has been the pressure from the Baltimore defensive front 4. They've been able to get up in Matt Dunnigan's face and force him to throw several bad balls.
29-yard field goal attempt by Westwood. It's good. He missed 2 first-half field goal tries, and he puts this one through from 29 yards, and it's now a 30-point spread. 40-10, Baltimore leads Winnipeg.
And very quietly, Don, Winnipeg has scored 10 unanswered points in this game. And you know the type of firepower that this offense possesses with Matt Dunnigan at the helm and the receiving core that they have out there on the field with Jackson, Wilcox, Daniel, and Alfin. These 4 guys can get up and down the field. And so if you're Baltimore, it's very important now that you're able to go down the field and get a stay on these points that Winnipeg have been scoring and put some points up of your own.
Baltimore 1st and 10 from the 35-yard line. Handoff to Pringle, and Pringle is grabbed from behind, but he continues driving. Is forced back, the ball comes loose, but the whistle had already gone.
The leg drive of a Mike Pringle, it was very evident on that play.
You know, to put what the Baltimore CFLers have achieved this year in perspective, think about this. In the National Football League, no expansion team has ever made the playoffs in its first year. It has never happened in Major League Baseball. Only once in the NBA, the 1966-67 Chicago Bulls, and in 67-68, Minnesota, Los Angeles, Philadelphia, and St. Louis did it in the National Hockey League. This is Pringle with a big hole, and Pringle gives Baltimore another first down to the 53 of Winnipeg.
Well, just when it seems that Winnipeg had things figured out defensively, Mike Pringle rips off another huge run on a counter trap. You see Sharp Ordonez and Nick Subas coming around. Kick out, Pringle reads the block, takes it up inside, and picks up another 15 yards on the ground. Gives him 158 for the game. You'll see Clark from his linebacker position just can't get to the hole, and that's the key. If your linebackers can't get there, it's going to be a big run for the running back.
It's Pringle again. And this time the Bombers stop him at the 50, a pickup of 3. That'll be 161 yards for Pringle. He is now 44 yards shy of breaking Willie Burden's record. He now has the #2 all-time single-season rushing record in his possession, with a game still remaining next weekend against Sacramento.
Well, the thing about running backs, Don, they have a tendency to get stronger as the game goes on. Pringle now is up to 20 carries in this game, and he's showed no signs of slowing down. And with this massive offensive line up in front of him leading the way, that makes the trading quite easy for Mike Pringle.
Backs always say they like to handle the ball 25 to 30 times during a football game. I think it's rather obvious, though, if they're getting the ball that often, they're also having some success running it. If you're only picking up a yard a crack, you're not going to be getting the ball 25 times.
Especially in a CFL game. You see today, he has 200 yards, well, 150, make that 161 yards rushing. We have a little mistake there on our graphic. Mike Pringle has had an outstanding game, though. I mean, he's done a great job in running and blocking, and the Baltimore offense has played a very complimentary game to each other.
Ham on second down, the quarterback draw. He'll get the first down and more. Robert Drummond was downfield trying to set up a block for Tracy Ham, and he had Donald Smith lined up.
Don, he was ready to clean his clock, boy. I mean, but Tracy Ham, we've seen a rejuvenated Tracy Ham. This reminds you of Tracy Ham 6-7 years ago with the Edmonton Eskimos, where he would pull the ball down and take off and raise havoc on defenses because defensive linemen could not contain him. Secondary players hated him because he broke contain and he took off running downfield.
First and 10 Baltimore from the Winnipeg 22. Handoff to Pringle. He follows Ballard again, then cuts the other way, and there's a penalty flag as Pringle gets to the 15-yard line. Number 63 is John Earl. He and his twin brother, Guy, signed with Baltimore on the same day after being released by different NFL teams. That was on the 18th of August. And not only do they have the Earl twins, the Malcolm twins are on the roster of Baltimore. Or the Goodwin twins, I should say. Malcolm and Matt.
And Don, when you talk about the Earl twins, they're coached by a twin. Steve Barada, the offensive line coach and offensive coordinator for Baltimore, also has a twin brother.
Winnipeg 74. Baltimore has elected to apply the penalty in the next quarter. End of quarter.
A face mask call against Winnipeg. The penalty will be applied in the fourth quarter. There it is right there as Baltimore threatens to improve on its 40-10 lead. We'll be back with the fourth quarter after this. The application of the face mask penalty on the final play of the third quarter gives Baltimore a first and goal from the 8-yard line of Winnipeg. Hand off to Pringle, who tries to get to the outside. He does. Touchdown. 175 yards now for Mike Pringle.
Don, the key to this play is big offensive tackle Neil Fort just collapses it down Tony Hill, and Mike Pringle just basically waltzes into the end zone for the touchdown, unmolested, going up celebrating with some happy fans here in Baltimore. He's had a fine game. This Baltimore offense was able to respond to the 10 unanswered point by the Winnipeg Blue Bombers.
Igwe Beke makes it a 47-10 game. It's going to be a long trip home tonight for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers as they head back on a charter, and next week they will face the Toronto Argonauts, coming off a very disappointing loss last night to Shreveport, while Baltimore will travel to Hornet Field in Sacramento.
I think the toughest thing for Winnipeg as we get another look at the Mike Pringle scamper into the end zone for the touchdown and the 47th point for Baltimore here in the game is that they're really going to have to question their defense. Over the past 2 games, 90 points have been given up by the Bomber defense, so they're really going to have to do some work on that side of the ball, regardless of what the final score is today. I mean, that's got to be a big concern for them as they face the Toronto Argonauts next week. As we've seen over the past couple of weeks, the Argonauts have the ability to put points on the scoreboard in their own right.
Tim Daniel and Alan Boyd.
Well, they're doing a repair job to the right foot of rusher Mike Pringle.
Looked like he may have had a blister there on the inside of his foot.
Tim Daniel is the kickoff return man for Winnipeg. Can't find the seam that he was looking for. The ball comes loose as it goes out of bounds. The tackle was made by Benson. That was a 21-yard run back after a 60-yard kickoff. Ken Benson broke his leg in a preseason game and missed the first 13 games of the season. The Baltimore CFLers traveled 75 yards in just 6 plays, capping it with a 7-yard run by Mike Pringle.
Well, if you're going to respond to a team scoring surge, they did it in fine fashion, eclipsing 10 yards per play on average, moving the ball right down the field, getting in end zone with that Mike Pringle off-tackle run.
2 very impressive offensive performances back-to-back by Baltimore as Goodwin hauls down Dunnigan at the 30-yard line. Last week, Baltimore won 48-31 over BC, and they've racked up 47 points so far against Winnipeg.
Well, this is an offense that has played consistently all year, but it seems like it's maturing right now as we get another shot of Matt Goodwin coming from his outside wheel linebacker position to drop Matt Dunnigan. This Baltimore offense, as you spoke about, Don, with the point production 48 last week, 47 thus far in this game, and it's just rolling into the playoff time. You can say that this team is matured, and it may be the team that no one wants to play.
Shovel pass to Pierce. The ball comes loose, and it's recovered by Baltimore. They ruled, pardon me, it's an incomplete pass with a pass play for Pierce. Get a little confused with those shovel passes, but it is a passing play.
That's okay. We'll give that to you at your time in life. But if you look at the Winnipeg Blue Bombers leaving the field, I think that is the biggest thing. If you look at them, the heads are hanging going off the field. There's no giddy up in their step as they're leaving the field, almost like it's a defeated team when you look at them. There's still 13 minutes to go in the game.
47-10, I think it is a beaten team. Lester Smith goes back to his own 36-yard line for this third down punt by Cameron, a penalty flag.
Lester Smith on the run.
Greg Clark, the downfield tackler, was illegally blocked after a 42-yard punt by Bob Cameron. We'll be back after this.
Memorial Stadium, it's a brisk 37-point lead for the Baltimore CFLers, and don't the fans love it? Let's tidy up some out-of-town business now. Saskatchewan 46-29 over Ottawa, and in Edmonton, Sacramento leading the Eskimos 6-0 at halftime. With Saskatchewan's win, Sacramento has to win today to extend the decision on the last playoff spot in the West to one more week, Don.
Yes, and Sacramento's final game is at home against Baltimore, and this is Mike Pringle taking the ball up to the 39-yard line. That will be another first down.
I guess that little Band-Aid job on the sideline worked in that last time out after the touchdown. Watch the quick trap right up the middle. The kick out by Neil Ford on Stan Mickles right in the center of your screen there, allowing that gaping hole for Mike Pringle to pick up another 11 yards on first down.
Pringle is now just 16 yards shy of Willie Burton's record. What a performance he has put on this afternoon for Baltimore. Ham hasn't been bad either as he hits Walter Wilson for a first down at the midfield stripe.
Don, the key, as you spoke about, Ham hasn't been bad. He has kept this defense for Winnipeg off balance all afternoon with the crossing route here to Walter Wilson, as his offensive line again awards him the protection that he needs to find his receivers deep downfield on crossing patterns.
First and 10 Baltimore. They are at midfield. Ham does all of his own play calling. He sends three receivers wide to the right, gets a pre-snap read, then gives it to Pringle, and Pringle takes it up to the 50-yard line.
Brought down by Tony Hill.
Don, the advantage that Tracy Ham possesses in doing all of his own play calling is that the time that he saves and plays being signaled in from the sideline, and he can force the defense to tip their hand coverage-wise. And when he comes to the line of scrimmage, say, check with me, everyone is waiting for his play call, so he's doing basically just an audible system at the line of scrimmage.
Mike Pringle now needs just 11 yards to break the 1975 record of Willie Burton. Pass is complete over the middle to Pringle, and that's another Baltimore first down. You know, think about this for a minute. Pringle was acquired from Sacramento. He was the throw-in as a part of a trade between Baltimore and Sacramento.
Well, Coach K. Stevens said that Pringle didn't exactly meet the criteria of the big back that they were looking for in a blocker for Mike Oliphant, and he asked Coach Don Matthews would he consider putting him as part of the trade, bringing him to Baltimore to giving an opportunity to play. And when Pringle came in, as we see him on this play being stopped in the backfield, wasn't even the starter at the start of the season. Sheldon Canley was the starting tailback for Baltimore at the time, but in the second game, they switched to Mike Pringle, and they've been happy ever since.
It's a loss of 4 yards back to the 44-yard line.
So he needs 15 now.
He's back to requiring 15 to break Willie Burton's record. I said in the first half that he might break that record in today's ball game. I said that somewhat in jest. I didn't think it would be possible for him to run for over 200 yards against Winnipeg. Here's Armstrong going for the touchdown. His third of the day. 44 yards. Tracy Ham to Chris Armstrong.
Don, when you see right here just a straight fly route by Chris Armstrong, getting behind Sampson in the secondary, and that foot speed. That was the reason why Baltimore signed Chris Armstrong, because he had the ability to still run the 4.40, and you saw a true example of it on that play as he just exploded behind the Winnipeg secondary for his 3rd touchdown of the afternoon and his 6th game this season of multiple touchdown games.
Igwe adds the point after for a 54-10 Baltimore lead. Well, this is the worst beating that the Winnipeg Blue Bombers have suffered, but this year they have twice previously been humiliated. 58-19 by Calgary on the 23rd of July, and then 49-18 at home by Saskatchewan on the 11th of September. And let me point out that after getting whipped by Calgary, the Bombers came back to win 5 in a row. After getting blitzed by Saskatchewan, 6 in a row.
But I think those losses earlier in the season where they were blown out were different types of losses. This is the first time, Don, in the last 21 games that they've lost to an Eastern Conference opponent. And so that will be even more demoralizing to have that win streak stop interconference, and now they have to really go back and regroup, because the way things stand and the way both of these teams' records sit, they could be playing each other again in 3 weeks.
Daniel from the 20-yard line on the kickoff return for Winnipeg. Special teams play, according to Don Matthews, was going to be a key in this ball game. And the CFLers have excelled in that capacity. Here at Memorial Stadium, the big wheel just keeps on turning, and the Baltimore CFLers are now going to defend against Keithan McCant, who has taken over from Matt Dunnigan at the controls of the Bomber offense. 1st and 10 from the 34-yard line. A handoff to Matt Pierce. He replaced Blaze Bryant, and the ball comes loose. Baltimore's got it.
Don, with the fumble of Matt Pierce right there, it basically salts the victory for Baltimore, but now you have to start looking.
Salts it, James. That was salted away in the first half.
All right, well, I was trying to keep it entertaining at least. You know, hey, we don't want to lose the viewing audience. But now the real importance comes when we start looking next week when Toronto comes to town at Winnipeg Stadium to face the Blue Bombers. As we see Matt Pierce as he's stripped by Alfred Payton, 2 teammates of last season, and Payton comes up with the big play defensively against Matt Pierce.
Well, let's not totally eliminate Winnipeg. They still have an opportunity to finish first if they beat Toronto next week, and Sacramento knocks out Baltimore. John Congemi now in at quarterback, and Clark steps into Pringle and hammers him.
Oh, he planted him in the hole. I mean, that's how you play defense. You come up, the guy's running upright, you put that helmet right on his face. We get a clean shot of Matt Clark as he runs right through, and bam, he plants Mike Pringle in the hole.
Is that what you call a depleter?
I'm going to get a little graphic. That's what we call a snot knocker right there.
Second and 9. John Congemi has seen just limited action this year as the backup to Tracy Ham. Throws complete, however, to Pringle. Pringle loses the ball. Winnipeg has got it. Lawrence Hatch picks it up, and the Bombers take over. They are at their own 28-yard line.
Well, big hits have become the forte here in the last couple of minutes of the game here with 7:50 to go. Right there, as we saw Pringle being separated from the ball. You'll see right here as he makes the reception, Lyles comes up and strips him. Hatch picks up the loose ball, but watch Earl as he comes and just puts the shoulder in Hatch's chest and drops him at the 28-yard line. Pringle circling out of the backfield, a safe pass by Congemi, picks up the first down, loses the ball, recovery by Winnipeg.
McCant was throwing out into the flat, and Carl Anthony was heading for the end zone before the ball got there.
Now, you know, they changed quarterbacks. Now I have to question, are the guys colorblind at this moment? Because that time, Anthony was wide open. McCants laid it out perfectly. but this is the reason why he plays on the defensive side of the ball instead of the offensive side of the ball. You got to make that catch when you're that open.
2nd and 10 Winnipeg. The Blue Bombers at their own 28.5. McCant goes down back at the 17-yard line. O.J. Brigance and Lester Smith combined to bring down the Winnipeg quarterback, and there's also a penalty flag on the play at the line of scrimmage.
Gerald Bayless got into a little ruckus with Greg McNeil after the play, and I think that's what the flag is about, and it's going to cost Baltimore possibly some yardage here. Well, it looks like it's going to get McNeil here. They caught him first. Normally it's the second guy in those ruckus that get caught, but they saw McNeil initiate it. It's going to cost them. They'll take the sack on the play.
Major foul, unnecessary roughness. Winnipeg number 57. It's 3rd down.
7:21 remaining in the 4th quarter.
That's an interesting call. Not only does McCant get sacked right here by Smith, but they tack on the penalty on top of the sack.
And as a result, Bob Cameron is punting out of the end zone.
Thought you only got one of them in this situation.
Well, the penalty, I think, took place after McCant had been sacked.
He didn't clarify that part.
And Lester Smith brings the ball back inside the Winnipeg 35-yard line, a 7-yard run back. 7:02 remains at Memorial Stadium. 39,417 have been enjoying the action at Memorial Stadium this afternoon. The highest scoring game of the season for the Baltimore CFLers.
Let's make it in their history. Go that far. We go that far on that. That's a safe bet.
John Kangemi continuing at quarterback. Pringle, the ball carrier. He needs 15 yards to break Willie Burton's record.
I think he needs 4 now, Don.
Yeah, he's got 11.
Make that 12. Pick up 12 on that run. And they're running with this power eye set right now, so you know that Mike Pringle is going to be getting the ball. You got Robert Drummond along with Sheldon Canley and Tui Pelotu in the backfield, trading places with Pringle, blocking for him.
Pringle again. Pringle trying to get to the outside, and then he's driven back. Lawrence Hatch came up from his cornerback position, but they'll spot his forward progress close to the line of scrimmage.
Well, right now, Baltimore has gone to a dual tight set, power eye, 3 backs in the backfield, and they're using Drummond basically as a motion tight end to move him back and forth to dictate the floor of the defense where the strength and weakness is going to be. And what they're going to try to do here is just get Pringle the record.
Ball comes back to the 22-yard line. And Mike Pringle is going to be very close to getting the record right here. He's at the 17-yard line, driven back, and there are late penalty flags again. Another objectionable conduct call against Winnipeg. The frustration beginning to show on the part of the Blue Bombers. And I think Mike Pringle has just broken the record. They have announced that Mike Pringle has 1,897 yards. He did it on that last carry. And he is being congratulated by his teammates at center field as the fans stand and applaud this remarkable achievement by Mike Pringle.
And Don, this is what it's all about. Records are set to be broken. And we've seen Mike Pringle today eclipse a record that Willie Burton had set years ago as a Calgary Stampede on just a straight dive play. He picks up the record. Let's go down to Scott.
All right, here is Mike Pringle with me. Mike, the record stood for 18 years. Now you have it. You've made history. The moment is yours. I know you got a game to play, but go ahead and make your statement.
I'd just like to thank everybody for coming out and my offensive line for blocking. And I couldn't do anything without my offensive line. Mama, this season and this ball right here is dedicated to you. I love you.
One more question. Do you think you had a shot at this record today? You had to get over 200 yards to do it.
Well, I was trying, you know, and basically we were just trying to win. So, you know, if the yards came, they came.
That much you've taken care of for sure. Mike, thanks for your time. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Don.
And now the ball comes loose as Canley, who started the year as the Baltimore tailback, fumbles at the goal line, and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers have come up with it. 1,897 yards from Mike Pringle, 205 yards this afternoon against Winnipeg, 216 last week against BC. At the midpoint of the season, everyone was talking about the possibility of Corey Philpott of the BC Lions breaking Willie Burton's record. Not many people were giving consideration to Mike Pringle, and understandably so. It wasn't until the Shreveport game where he racked up 232 yards that he really broke loose. He followed up with 89 against Sacramento, then 173 against Saskatchewan, 176 against Ottawa, another 114 against Ottawa, 133 against Las Vegas, 32 against Edmonton, 216 last week against BC, and 205 today.
Well, I think the big question now is will he reach the 2,000-yard plateau with 1897? 2,000 is not out of reach, and Mike Pringle has had a fine season with the expansion CFLers here in Baltimore as well as the rest of his teammates. I mean, the rest of the CFL needs to take their hat off and give praise to this team for the fine job that they've done in their first year, and right now they're sitting in first place in the Eastern Division.
Cats first and 10 pass intended for Alphen, incomplete. Second and 10 Winnipeg from the 4-yard line. McCann for Jackson, intercepted by Irvin Smith. Smith had the inside position on Jackson. He's done a fine job of defending against Jackson this afternoon.
You talk about the fine job that he's done, Don. He's played that inside positioning on Alfred Jackson all afternoon. If Alfred Jackson was to catch a ball on Irvin Smith, he had to catch it over his outside shoulder. Everything inside. Smith had the perfect position, as we'll get a clear shot right here. As Smith with the good inside position on Jackson, the ball floated out. He made the leap, came down with the interception, and Baltimore has the ball once again at the 6-yard line. Excellent break on the ball by Smith as he comes inside, picks it off. Another big turnover for the Baltimore's defense.
First and goal, Baltimore. Canley, the ball carrier. He continues to struggle down near the 1-yard line. The ball again comes loose, but this time the whistle had already gone.
You know, it's going to put a lot of importance now, Don, on that game next week at Winnipeg Stadium with Toronto coming into town. Toronto in third, Winnipeg in second. Toronto coming off the disappointing loss at Skydome, but Winnipeg will be coming off the frustrating loss here at Memorial Stadium. Can Winnipeg rebound in a week's time to ward off the Toronto Argonauts? Because if they can't, those teams will have to face each other in back-to-back weeks in the playoffs.
Yeah, first place is by no means wrapped up yet. Winnipeg could still claim first place with a victory over Toronto next week if Sacramento beats Baltimore. Hatch knocked the pass down. It was intended for Washington in the end zone.
Well, they're not, and Baltimore, on the other hand, faces Sacramento, and they lost the home game here to Sacramento in the last seconds of the game.
Winnipeg, 94. It's a first down, Baltimore on the 1.
Hill was offside on the play, so it's first and goal, Baltimore now from the 1-yard line. 2:53 is the time remaining here at Memorial Stadium.
3 minutes to go in the game, and Baltimore is engaging Winnipeg in a rout. In Edmonton, Sacramento answering the pressure that says they have to win to stay alive. Kerwin Bell hits Myron Wise with a 15-yard touchdown pass. First major of the game. Edmonton answered on a 31-yard Sean Fleming field goal. 13-3 now, Sacramento in the third quarter, Don.
And the Winnipeg Blue Bombers about to suffer their worst beating in team history as Canley dives to the goal line but can't get in. 58 points scored by Calgary earlier this year, the most ever against the Blue Bombers. And it will be second and goal from the one. And unless Winnipeg comes up with a huge defensive stand, Baltimore is going to eclipse the 60-point mark.
Well, Don, unless you can come up with some odds that will cover that, I'll be sitting here waiting. But, you know, the demoralizing fact with Winnipeg, as I stated earlier, this is their first interconference loss in 21 games. They're going to be facing a Toronto team that's vastly improved next week. And this Baltimore team with a huge emotional lift with this victory here today in front of this huge home crowd.
It's Canley again, but he's not going to get in. Lloyd Lewis made the tackle.
You know, and the crowd is cheering for him to go after it. And Winnipeg, I think it would be for Winnipeg's advantage for them to go for it. And if they were able to come up with a stop defensively, that they would give them something to build on next week, because they really have to go back to basics next week when they go home and face Toronto and try to regroup from this demoralizing loss here at Memorial Stadium.
Well, as you can see, Donald Igwe-Bike has come into the ball game, and the CFLers aren't going to try and punch it into the end zone. A field goal attempt for Igwe-Bike, and that would take Baltimore to 57-10.
Well, their record by Calgary is safe by 1 point of that whipping that they got earlier in the year.
Igwe-Bike puts it through for a 57-10 Baltimore lead.
You look at Igwe-Bike right there. You know, after being released earlier in the season for 2 games, they brought in another kicker. Things didn't work out. They brought Igwe-Bike back in. And the success that he's had this year with this team, and the 2 field goals today from the 50-yard range, I think that really served notice that Baltimore was for real. His 2 longest field goals of the year in the same game, and the play that the defense has delivered all afternoon, shutting down this high-powered Winnipeg offense. Matt Dunnigan never got on track, and when they lost Blaze Bryant, I think that basically was the nail in the Winnipeg coffin this afternoon.
The 2 games that Igwe-Bike missed when he was dropped from the roster on September the 18th against Saskatchewan, and then the following week against Ottawa.
Now, when you look at the Baltimore side of things, Sacramento is leading Edmonton in Commonwealth Stadium this afternoon. Baltimore has to fight against complacency because they lost the last time these 2 teams played, and they lost on the last play field goal that Roman Anderson kicked here at Memorial Stadium. They could lock up first place next week with a victory in Sacramento, and for a new franchise to do that in their first year, to move a step further than what they've done already and just making the playoffs, is a great accomplishment.
But next week's game between Baltimore and Sacramento at Hornet Field is going to be an extremely important game for both teams. If, as you said, Sacramento holds on to win today. And then on Sunday, it's Toronto at Winnipeg. So the Blue Bombers will know whether or not the game will determine first place when they take the field against Toronto.
Well, the game is very important for Sacramento because their playoff life hinges on that game with Saskatchewan winning already today. They're beating Edmonton. They trail Sacramento by 1 point. They desperately need the victory against Baltimore. And on the other hand, Baltimore desperately need the victory to guarantee home field advantage as long as they stay within the playoff race. Well, stay in the playoffs.
Lester Smith takes Cameron's 3rd down punt. And with 1:13 remaining, he's stopped as he gets back to the 40-yard line.
Lester Smith on the
So the final weekend of the CFL season presents some interesting scenarios. And
explain them all real quick. You got 10 seconds, please. Come on.
Well, Ottawa and Hamilton, depending on what happens tomorrow to Hamilton in Calgary, could be fighting for the final playoff position in the East.
That's 7 seconds.
Winnipeg and Baltimore will be fighting for first place in the East. Sacramento and Saskatchewan will be battling for the 4th and final playoff spot.
Well, Saskatchewan could actually be fighting for the 3rd place spot in the West with Edmonton trailing, and if BC doesn't win one of their last 2 games, they could end up in 4th place in the West.
Sean Jones is in at quarterback as Don Matthews is giving all his signal callers an opportunity to play today.
You know, Don, who would have thought 6 weeks ago in the CFL that BC would be fighting for 3rd place, or really trying to stay out of 4th place in the Western Division, and things have broken down the way they have, that Sacramento and Saskatchewan would be fighting for a playoff spot late in the season. And, you know, the way the Baltimore team has rounded out, closing out the season here with this huge victory at home against Winnipeg, putting 57 points on the scoreboard. Just a tremendous offensive explosion here today.
Cannelly battles his way up across the 50-yard line. The biggest win of the season for the Baltimore CFLers, and they move into a tie with Winnipeg. They lost their previous meeting at Winnipeg Stadium 39-32, so they had to win today's game by 8 or more points in the event the 2 teams wind up in a first-place tie.
Let me add that up. 47. How much a cushion they have?
Well, Don Matthews said they weren't worried at all, weren't even thinking about the points. All they wanted to do was win the football game. They've achieved both today.
Well, they achieved both in fine fashion. I mean, when this team goes back and evaluate the game films this week, tomorrow when they come into practice, and see what success they had here against this Bomber defense, it's going to give them even more motivation and more to build on for next week's game against Sacramento. They know that they have the high-powered offense. They're going to need to contain Sacramento defensively because they can be very explosive. But with the running of Mike Pringle eclipsing the CFL rushing record for a season, and in close range where he can accomplish the 2,000-yard mark, I mean, that's going to give them a lot of motivation to go out and play a great offensive game next week in Sacramento.
Sean Jones, the Georgia Tech quarterback, called a timeout, and now he drops to a knee with 22 seconds remaining.
Well, it's going to be 3rd down, and the thing is, he cannot allow the clock to run out. He needs to take the snap, back off a few steps, and let the clock run off, then down the ball. But Baltimore is going to get out of here with this huge victory this afternoon. Winnipeg with the long plane flight home tonight, and a lot to think about for a week.
Still 2 seconds showing on the scoreboard clock. It will be 3rd down, Baltimore, and now Sean Jones will be able to take those final seconds off the clock. The final play of the game at Memorial Stadium, and what was anticipated as being a classic first-place matchup has turned into a rout favoring the Baltimore CFLers as they win it by a score of 57-10. This one, folks, was over early.
It was over early, Don, and the CFLers did themselves proud this afternoon in the way that they handled the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Very convincing fashion, a dominantly played game offensively, defensively, special team-wise. Coach John Matthews prepared for what they had to be ready for this afternoon, and they executed and clicked on all cylinders.
And it's been an afternoon to remember for number 27, Mike Pringle, the single-season rushing record holder in the Canadian Football League, with still 1 game remaining.
It's always sweet to set a record, and when you can set the record, setting another record for total points for your team for the season, it's an outstanding feat. Let's go down to Scott.
All right, James, Mike Pringle had the record today. Chris Armstrong 3 touchdowns, but it was Tracy Ham who was pulling the trigger. Let's not forget that. Did you foresee this?
Well, honestly, I couldn't, to be honest, no, I didn't see it. You know, we came out, made a mistake early, but we bent our backs, and I thought defense just played a well of a ball game. And, you know, my hat off to Mike Pringle. He's been doing that all year for us. You know, you certainly got to really consider him for MVP of the league. He's done a super job for us all year. And offensive line play, well, it was just a good win for us.
Yeah, he's the odds-on favorite to emerge from the East as the outstanding player nominee. No question about that. What would you say about the offensive line that's given you time, and Mike Pringle as well?
Well, you know, like I said in the interview, that's been a surprise for me on this team. Offensive line has really gelled together. They've taken a real pride in doing their job, and they do it well, and we just really appreciate those guys up front.
Trace, are the Baltimore CFLers now the team to beat for the Grey Cup?
Well, you know, all that stuff is a lot of hype. You know, we still got to go out and take...
No, come on. You guys looked unstoppable today.
Well, we still got to go out and play. You know, we came out and played today, and if we go out and play like that, we certainly will be a tough team to beat. But you know how this league is. You can be beat on any given weekend. You know, I was on the 16-2 team in Edmonton that got beat, so we got to go out and play. We got a good chance.
All right, Trace, thanks for your time. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, the road to the Grey Cup in the East usually heads through Winnipeg, may come through Baltimore this year. This will be an expansion team not soon forgotten. CFLers continued their amazing season. They've denied the Bombers first place and established themselves as serious Grey Cup contenders. A record by Mike Pringle, a lopsided win, and Baltimore's on a huge roll, 57-10 the final. In Ottawa earlier, Saskatchewan won by 17. So the Western Riders can clinch the last playoff spot in the West if Sacramento loses to Edmonton at Commonwealth Stadium. And as we speak, Sacramento leads 13-10 in the fourth quarter. Now the game is tied at 13. This just in, as we say, from Edmonton. After today's game, the East looks like this. Bombers and Baltimore tied for first. Decision now comes down to the final weekend. Toronto will finish third. Calgary owns the West again. BC and Edmonton are in the playoffs. And as I said a moment ago, the final berth is a battle between Saskatchewan and Sacramento. Saskatchewan's win today gives the Riders the serious edge. Our next telecast tomorrow afternoon, Stampeders have wrapped up first in the West, but Hamilton's fighting for the last playoff spot in the East. Ticats upset the Stamps 2 weeks ago, and they'll have to do it again. Tomorrow night on CBC Sports, the IAAF World Cup Athletics from London. Linford Christie headlines the cast of competitors. Check your listings. Next Saturday, it's the Breeders' Cup live from Louisville, Kentucky. The biggest single day in horse racing. We'll have 5 hours of live coverage. Here at Memorial Stadium this afternoon, this was unforeseen, but now look out for the Baltimore CFLers the rest of the way. Thanks for watching, and so long from Baltimore.